government.
The county government generally has been dysfunctional.
19 states have legalized marijuana. Now it's our turn, Missouri.
This amendment does not equal decriminalization.
We're operating at 30 jobs now. We'll double that to 60 if Amendment 3 passes.
Your children's future will always be my top priority.
It's never been more important for people to vote. Right now.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this election night edition of News 4. I'm Samantha Jones.
And I'm Corey Stark. By now, most of your votes have been cast, and now we wait for the results to start rolling in. News 4 is covering the biggest races all across the bi-state, and we have crews monitoring the latest from Springfield, Illinois, to St. Louis City, to St. Louis County. And that's where our Election Night 2022 team coverage kicks off tonight. Our Caroline Hecker joins us live at the polls that are closed in St. Louis County. Caroline?
We know the polls just closed, guys, about at 7 o'clock or so here a couple of minutes ago. And last we checked, turnout here in St. Louis County was a little bit over 55%. That's pretty close to what election officials were projecting earlier this week. We are joined now by Rick Stream with the County Board of Elections. Let's talk a little bit about that turnout. Is that where you wanted to see things? Did things pick up throughout the day?
Actually, I think it was pretty steady all day long. It's you're going to probably get close to 57% as it's turned out. It was heavy throughout the day in West County, South County, and Mid County. It picked up a little bit in North County toward the end.
Let's talk a little bit about election security. I know a lot of people, that's top of mind for a lot of people. What is being done now that the polls are closed to get those ballots here to Board of Elections?
Good question. It's a very secure process. It's a bipartisan process. When the polls close, the two supervisors, one Republican, one Democrat, gather the thumb drives from the scanners and the ballots that are in the boxes below, and they put those in a sealed bag. They come back in the same car together and bring those items back to the election board office here, and they're taken into the tabulation room where they're going to be counted.
And the absentee and early voting ballots we had, have those yet to be counted? Will those be counted first tonight?
Those will be counted first tonight, starting at 7 p.m., where state law requires that we hold off on any tabulation until 7 p.m. on election night when the polls have closed. So we'll tabulate the absentee votes first, and by 7:30 we should have a report out with around 78,000 absentee votes.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Again, guys, those poll workers, poll managers working to get all of that information eventually here to the Board of Elections. We will be here. We will be here to get results in real time. But for now, we will send it back to you.
Okay, Caroline, thank you. We'll expect those early results in the next half hour. Another top race tonight, Missouri's U.S. Senate seat. Republican Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt is facing off with Democrat Trudy Busch Valentine for that spot. And we have crews on both of those candidates' campaign watch parties tonight where they'll be awaiting the results. We start with our Alexis Zodos at Westport Plaza with the Schmidt campaign. Alexis.
Sam, that's right. We're live here at Westport Plaza Sheraton Hotel, where the watch party for Republican candidate Eric Schmidt started about an hour ago. But if you take a look behind me, it's still pretty empty in here. There's about a couple dozen people here. They're starting to trickle in. Those polls, as we've said, have really just come to a close. So people are excited to start seeing those results come in. We are told that the Attorney General is here at the hotel with his family. He's eating pizza tonight with his kids and his family. That's their election night tradition, and they expect to have him take a stand at that podium tonight. They expect him to be declaring a win and heading to Washington as Missouri's next U.S. Senator. Of course, we'll be here to bring you those results. We'll send it back to you.
We'll continue to check in with you, Alexis. Thank you. Now we want to get right over to our Jenna Ray. She is live right now in South St. Louis with the Trudy Busch Valentine campaign. Jenna?
Corey, things are very similar here. Although the polls have closed and the doors have opened here at the Sheet Metal Workers Hall, there's still no one here yet. We do know that Trudy Busch Valentine is with her family tonight after spending the day campaigning and talking with voters across the St. Louis region. We did catch up with Busch Valentine just a few hours ago, and she said one of the most important things for her is meeting with people in every corner and every pocket in the state for the last several months. That's exactly what she says says she has been doing. And tonight, she's hoping to supersede her opponent, Republican Eric Schmidt. Although polls do show Schmidt leading in this race, the Bush-Valentine team tells me that they are still remaining optimistic. And again, people should be here any minute now, and we'll send it back to you guys.
Jenna, thank you. Now to another hot race in the Metro. That is for St. Louis County Executive.
And Democrat incumbent Dr. Sam Page is up against Republican candidate Mark Montevani. Montevani switched parties for this race when a Republican candidate dropped out at the last minute. And we're going to check in with our Russell Kinsall for more from their watch party tonight.
Yeah, the watch party here. Sam Page is not here yet. The place is still fairly empty. We've seen one campaign worker and the two guys working the bar, but we expect things to pick up here pretty soon. Sam Page is running very proud of his record. He said in the last year, crime is down, jobs have been created. He says more resources have been put into the opioid epidemic and on addressing mental health. There have been some scandals during his tenure as county executive. Tony Weaver, his appointment as jail director, resigned and then pleaded guilty to trying to defraud the government out of some COVID relief funds. Page said that he fired him as soon as he heard of the accusations, and because of safeguards, no money was ever obtained. His chief of staff resigned after a sex video surfaced, but Page said there are 3,800 employees in the county. Some make bad decisions, and he can't be held accountable for those. But he says he does have a good track record, and if he's reelected, his number one priority would be public safety. Number two is public health. He won in 2020 with 58% of the vote. We'll see how the numbers shake out tonight. Live in Bridgeton, Russell Kinsall, News 4.
Russell, thank you. And from Russell, we'll get to our Susan L. Corey, who is live in Brentwood tonight. She joins us now from the Mark Montevani campaign watch party.
Well, things are definitely starting to pick up here. You can see the room getting full. Mark Montevani himself walked in not too long ago. You can see he has his back to us, but he is over there talking to supporters. He's been making the rounds, just talking to people. We caught up with him earlier today, and he told us that he feels good going into tonight. He believes he ran a positive campaign. Now, he is running this time as a Republican, but before he's run for county executive as a Democrat. Well, he told us that parties don't matter, and he thinks that the issues are what really is going to resonate with voters. He says he's focusing on things like policing and trying to bring safety to the county, and he's hoping that voters will also be showing that that's what matters to them tonight. And the goal here, that he'll be standing up on that podium giving his victory speech. We're, of course, going to be watching what happens. Back to you.
Susan, thank you. A lot of focus in Missouri, but there's also a lot going on across the river in Illinois. Our Melanie Johnson is in studio tracking some of the biggest races for us tonight in Illinois. Melanie?
A lot to get to tonight, Sam and Corey. Here's a look at where the Illinois governor race is right now. The AP projecting a winner in that race as incumbent J.B. Pritzker, the already governor of Illinois. He's running against Republican Darren Bailey, and these two candidates could not be more different. Again, this is early voting results. We're going to go over to the senator race as well for Illinois. Tammy Duckworth also being projected that winner in that race from the AP. She is running against Republican Kathy Salvi. She is an attorney out in Chicago, but these again are preliminary results. We will continue to monitor these races as they come in. Collective bargaining is also a big ticket item on the collective bargaining agreement in Illinois. That is Amendment 1. No results as of right now. We will continue to monitor these results coming in within the next hour.
Okay, Melanie, thank you. And one of the biggest amendments in Missouri that we're watching tonight is that for Amendment 3. If approved, recreational marijuana would be legalized throughout Missouri. And our David Amalotti is downtown, where those for Amendment 3 have gathered to watch the results that we're showing here on the screen. So far, no results in on that yet, David, but what is the atmosphere like where you are?
We're starting to see people trickle inside of the Crown Room. We're on the second floor of Ballpark Village. If you look behind me, they're just bringing out the buffet right now as some folks are making their way up the staircase. This is the main watch party for Legal Missouri 2022. That's the main driving force behind this effort to get Amendment 3 on the ballot this year and to try and get recreational marijuana legalized. Now, I did take the time to reach out to Scott Dickhouse. He is the executive director of Save Our State. It's a grassroots coalition that's opposed to Amendment 3. He says they're not gathering tonight. So that's why we're here. Something to keep in mind, if Amendment 3 does pass tonight, it's going to look different than how it rolled out a few years ago into Illinois. The big thing is, in Missouri, this will be an amendment to the Constitution. Illinois just passed it as a state law. Also, Missouri has already 60 cultivators. Illinois has half of that. And of course, Missouri has significantly more dispensaries than Illinois as well. We're going to keep following the race from here at Ballpark Village, as well as talk with folks as they make their way in. Live from Ballpark Village, David Amilati, News 4.
David, thank you. Turning now to the race for Missouri's recently redistricted 2nd District. That is between incumbent Ann Wagner and Democrat Trish Gumby. No results being reported in that race yet, but our Gabriela Vidal joins us live now with more on that from Manchester.
Yeah, Corey, I'm at Piermont Elementary School, where some of the last few voters are casting their votes before we actually head over to the Trish Gumby party, which doors open at 8. Now, incumbent Ann Wagner is now planning on hosting her own election party tonight, but we will be at the Trish Gumby one later on tonight. Now, a very historic race with this redistricting, because no matter what, a woman will be representing Franklin County for the first time in the House of Representatives in 2023. Now, with this redistricting, both parts of Warren and Franklin counties now reside in the 2nd District. Now, the incumbent since 2013, Ann Wagner, is running on a platform that includes pushing back against overspending under the Biden administration. Meanwhile, Trish Gumby is fighting for voters' access to an abortion and common sense gun regulation. Now, tonight we're watching to see how much of an impact the newly drawn redistricting will impact, because now it kind of skews more Republican, but we can also see whether or not some of the canvassing that Trish Gumby's party has done to tip the scales to blue. Reporting live in Manchester, Gabriela Vidal, News 4.
Okay, and News 4 is also tracking some big elections for U.S. House seats in Missouri and Illinois. For the updated results on those, as those early numbers are coming in, we want to send you back over to our Melanie Johnson here in studio watching other races for us tonight. Melanie.
Sam and Corey, both Democrats and Republicans want to take the majority out in Washington, D.C. We're getting some of the results in right now. Take a look at your screen right now. Missouri U.S. District 1. Cori Bush, the Democrat, is looking to be the favorite in this race. She beat her opponent in the primary against Republican Andrew Jones, who is a newcomer to the political scene. No results as of right now, as 0% is reporting right now. But over to Missouri U.S. District 3, Blaine Luetkemeyer against Bethany Mann, the Democrat. They're both fairly new to the political scene, but they're hoping to win a seat tonight. Again, 0% coming in right now, as these are early voting numbers. We're hoping to get some after 7:30, after those early voting tabulations come in.
Melanie Johnson with that update for us. Thank you. Tonight, News 4 has a look at some exclusive early numbers tonight as voting results have come in, and our Paige Halsey is tracking those right now in the studio. Paige?
What we have right now includes insight as to what voters were feeling and thinking as they headed into the polls, both today and those who participated in early voting. Overwhelmingly, both in Missouri and Illinois, we heard that economy and jobs were the top issue driving voters. Take a look at these numbers showing what the thousands of Missouri voters that we talked to in this exclusive polling said. 48% of them saying economy and jobs were the #1 issue. Immigration, abortion, health care, all trailing and splitting the other half of the vote. And not surprisingly, Illinois voters feeling very similar. You see here, 41% of them cared the most about economy and jobs. Crime, abortion, climate change, and gun policy trailed behind in Illinois. So that gives some exclusive insight into the priorities that drove voters to get out. Still ahead, we're going to bring you that exclusive data about the votes cast. Sam.
Paige, thank you. Still ahead in this special midterm election edition of News 4, we have gathered a group of local political experts right here in our studio to give us some more insight. We'll have their analysis coming up after the break.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
All you have to do is rise.
We'll help you shine.
Blueberry muffin? Thank you. News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us. We're watching out for you every morning.
He's guilty as hell.
Speeding in a Maserati on Gravois.
You killed someone.
You killed someone. He's gone.
5 years later, the driver still not held accountable.
Our system's just corrupt.
News 4 investigates why this family's still fighting for justice.
Well, he hasn't spent a second behind bars.
Thursday at 10 on News 4.
Something needs to be done.
Welcome back. In our studio tonight, we have gathered former politicians and experts on local politics in the bi-state.
And Chief Political Reporter Lauren Traeger joins us live with our political panel right now. Lauren?
Yeah, guys, these are folks who have been there, done that, giving us an inside look at what these elections are all about. So I want to introduce them to you right now. I've got former Missouri Governor Jay Nixon with me here, former St. Louis City Alderman Antonio French, the Dems, of course, on the left. On the right, the Republicans, former state GOP head Gene Evans and Congressman Rodney Davis. Thank you guys again for being here with us. Great conversations on primary night. This is the big night. This is the big show. So are we going to see any surprises? I mean, are you guys expecting anything remarkable tonight?
I think we'll clearly see surprises. I mean, the turnout is better than we thought. And I think you've got a lot of local contested races. You may not see big surprises in the bigger races, but I think inside these numbers you're going to see some dramatic and interesting things. I think the Montevani Page race will be interesting, and I think that the Kotar Megan Green race will be extremely interesting, and you've got the McCreary race out west. There's a lot of interesting things that could happen.
Yeah, what about for the Republicans? Could be a good night?
Yeah, I hope so. We'll see, but there's the poll that counts is the one that's today, and when we get to count the votes, I think that there will be some Senate races that we don't know the results for a couple of days. So I don't know if that will be determined tonight. We know already that Rubio has won in Florida, and DeSantis has won re-election there, and we're seeing a huge wave in Florida. I think Florida is really going to be a red state going forward, and it's just one of those things that I don't think anyone predicted maybe 6 or 8 years ago. But there's been a shift with some of these states that are becoming solidly red or solidly blue, or they're kind of shifting a little bit. So there's some things going out west too in Oregon, which we probably won't see the results of tonight while we're here, where they could elect a Republican governor. So there's a lot of changes coming along, and sure to be some surprises.
Congressman, let's talk about Illinois, because obviously we have some big statewide races that are happening there, Senate and governor. Southern Illinois, though, a different story. What are you watching there?
Well, I'm watching that 13th congressional district race between Nikki Budzinski and Regan Deering. That's one that I'll be keying in on. I'm also watching the 17th congressional district. This is the old Sherry Bustos district. Esther Joy King seemingly came out of nowhere, even though we knew she didn't come out of nowhere, and she almost beat Sherry in 2020. Esther should be the clear winner and go to Congress. And you couple that with a couple of seats that we've already picked up in Florida. Kevin McCarthy's well on his way to being Speaker of the House. I agree with Governor Nixon. Probably won't hear that a lot from me tonight, but I agree that we're going to take the GOP. And I agree, too, that the issues that you brought up shouldn't be issues that should have risen to the forefront of messaging. But the inflation issue and the economy issue, the Democrats and Joe Biden didn't do enough to combat that. And that's why I think you're going to see historic majorities in the House.
Is that a matter of messaging, though? I was going to ask about that. Did someone get their word out better, Republicans or Democrats? Antonio?
Well, I think that, it's just a case where a lot of voters are just not very happy with the direction of the country, and they're looking for change. That usually goes in the favor of the party not in power in these midterm elections, and I think Republicans are going to benefit from that nationally. But locally, people are still just looking for a different direction, I think, as well. They're not happy with how things are going in the city and obviously in the county, because people are not very happy. Sam Page has more of a race than he was expecting to have.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a lot of people, we were looking at these numbers of people leaving the polls feeling very despondent. They are just not happy with the direction of the country. What does that say? I mean, some of them are saying they are worried that the next generation is going to be worse off than we are.
The shift in tactics and strategy over the last 10 years is culminating with this, in which the good consultants, the good campaigns, spend much more of their time saying what's wrong with the other person than what's right with themselves. And when you spend hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, saying nothing but bad things about somebody else, oftentimes that has a significant effect. There's not a lifting moment in this campaign. There wasn't somebody on the scene that you said, I'm with her or I'm with him. In a way, it was more, I'm not with that other person. And when you get in that kind of dynamic, Races will be relatively close, but you don't have all you have is a mandate for prices to go down. Well, that was a mandate before the election.
well, when you look at messaging, and you're right, negative campaigning drives everybody crazy, but candidates wouldn't spend so much money doing ads like that if they didn't work.
I agree with. The only point I was making was that I think if you run for office, you ought to have a plan. I think if you're off, you ought to lay out what you're going to do. And saying my plan is I'm against the other guy, I don't consider that a plan.
You can bring out what your opponent stands for, but you also ought to bring out what you're going to do once you're elected. I agree. And a prime example of how that works is Ron DeSantis in Florida. Ron DeSantis ran, in my opinion, the most positive campaign that we've seen nationwide. And he is killing it by 18 points the last time I checked.
It's a lot easier to be positive when you're up by 10.
It's a lot easier to be positive, you're right. But still, consultants will tell you, send that message. One surprise area, I'm a little queasy about North Carolina right now. The Democrats are doing too well with too much of the vote in. I hope I'm wrong, but that's something to watch the rest of the night.
For local women voters, will Roe have made an impact? I mean, I know Democrats were hoping that would galvanize people at the polls. We're seeing some of the numbers come back that it may not have been the biggest issue. Will it have gotten people to the polls?
I think in State Senate 24 out in central West County with Tracy McCreary against George Ruza, I think that's a big issue there. I think that helps her. You have college-educated women who tend to vote pro-choice in general, not always. And I think it does help her there. It's a more Democratic district than it is a Republican one. So she already had a little bit of an edge. But the fact that issue is important in that particular district. But once you get outside St. Louis County, until you get to Jackson County, maybe in Boone, right? Then that's not a winning message. Pro-choice is not a winning message, and you got to be pro-life and all those other places. But here it is.
Should the Democrats have done a better job talking about other issues, or did they need to focus on that?
Focus on
Roe and abortion access.
I don't think campaigns in Missouri are ever won when people talk about that issue. I think it's an issue that is incredibly personal. It's very moral. People have legitimate differences based on their deep moral feelings about things and their faith. And I don't think politics should try to divide people by turning a faith issue into a political issue. Plus, the people that know that issue understand it really well. They've read all the stuff. I don't see it as a political issue. I think it's been a mistake by the Democrats to make it one.
And statewide, it's not a winner for Democrats at all.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Do okay in the People's Republic of Boone.
Right. Yeah, in certain pockets, it is a big issue, but it's statewide. It's not. It really isn't.
It's the economy.
It's the economy, and it's also crime. I mean, I think that that's the other mistake is that particularly for suburban women, college-educated women, they're going to the grocery store, they're buying gas. And they're afraid to go anywhere because of crime. So those are the things that they're seeing every day. So maybe the reproductive rights, the abortion issue kind of took a back seat to that because it wasn't an everyday issue that they were facing.
A lot more to talk about, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to send it back to you guys now, though, in the studio for the moment.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
I want to thank you for joining us on News 4 for this election night. News 4 is monitoring the race for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat. Here's a look at some of the early results for Republican Attorney General Eric Schmidt facing off against Democrat Trudy Busch Valentine right now.
And again, just 1% of the precincts reporting there very early. Our Alexis Odos is following the Eric Schmidt campaign. She joins us live now. Alexis?
Sam, Corey, you can see behind me people are starting to file into this watch party. It started about an hour ago, so still a pretty small crowd. They are watching those results really mostly on a national stage as those local results still haven't really come in. But I wanted to show you a picture that Attorney General Eric Schmidt just tweeted out, a picture of him and his family eating pizza. That is their election night tradition, being together as a family. His campaign tells us he will make his way down here as soon as more of those results roll in. They are feeling confident about tonight. Of course, polls had him ahead. They say they are feeling really good about that. But of course, everyone waiting to see what voters actually did today to see if they will send Eric Schmidt to Washington as the next U.S. Senator for Missouri. We'll keep an eye on it. For now, we'll send it back to you guys.
Alexis, thank you. Our Jenna Ray is in South St. Louis at the campaign watch party for Trudy Busch Valentine. Jenna?
Hi, Corey and Sam. Things are really picking up here in South St. Louis. We've got a few dozen supporters of Trudy Bush Valentine here as the doors just opened about a half hour ago with those polls closing. Her supporters now coming to the Sheet Metal Workers Hall. Now, despite those early numbers showing Republican candidate Eric Schmidt winning, I talked with Trudy Bush Valentine's team and some supporters here tonight. They say they're still remaining optimistic. We know Bush Valentine is spending the evening with her family, and we'll get back to you guys soon.
Okay, Jenna, thank you. Another hot race we're watching tonight in the Metro is the one for St. Louis County Executive. So far, no results in that one, but Democrat incumbent Dr. Sam Page facing off against Republican candidate Mark Montevani.
Let's get right to Russell Kinsall at Dr. Sam Page's watch party tonight. Russell?
Well, Sam Page and his wife showed up here just a short time ago. They were waiting till the polls closed. My first question to him was, how do you feel about the election? And he says he's confident he will win. He was asked about the high numbers of turnout in areas with large concentrations of Republican voters. He said that he won't speculate on what the numbers will end up being, but he is confident that he will win. He says as he traveled around the county today, talking with voters at different polling places, he got really, really good feedback. Now, this is a race that's a tale of two different views. His opponent says county government's in chaos and we could do better. Sam Page says he's led the county through difficult times. Crime is down. Jobs have been created. He's focusing more resources on mental health and substance abuse. So he's confident that he will win. That's the situation here in Bridgeton. Now let's take a break.
We're going to toss to a break, and we'll be back with our election special on KMOV.com and all your streaming apps.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
Inflation got you down, we're here to help. Free coffee, free gas, free groceries, free utilities, and a free fun night out. This November's free for you. For your chance to win, go to KMOV.com/contest for more information. Good morning, St. Louis.
News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us.
We're watching out for you
every morning.
You deserve to be first. First to know when you're going to need a little extra protection, or something to keep you dry, or extra time in the morning, or when you need to run for these. Hey, if weather's going to mess up your day,
watch News 4 and you'll be first with First Alert Weather.
First for you.
All day, every day.
First Alert Weather.
Steve Templeton and the First Alert Weather Team.
Yeah, we're watching out for you.
Welcome back to this special midterm election edition of News 4.
Right now we are monitoring the results that are just starting to come in all of the big races for you across the bi-state. Our team coverage continues with crews spanning the area, talking to candidates as we await all of tonight's outcomes to come in. We want to get you over to our Paige Holsey, who's here in studio.
And she has some exclusive early numbers for us tonight. Paige?
That's right. In our exclusive polling with the Associated Press, Missouri voters told us overwhelmingly that control of the U.S. Senate was very important to them. So I want to break down that race a little bit. We do have some early numbers, but very few votes have been counted. We only have votes from Lincoln County as well as Jackson County in Kansas City. If you look at those early numbers, you see that Trudy Bush Valentine is winning with some 57% of the votes, but this is less than 1% of the vote that's in. So we can't get ahead of ourselves looking at that percentage yet. I want to offer a little perspective about if she were going to have a path to victory tonight and what that would have to look at. And to do that, we have to go back to 2020 and the presidential election. Okay, this map right here is showing the end results of the presidential election in 2020 with Donald Trump taking the state of Missouri. You can see, though, he had the city of St. Louis County. He also had Boone County, as well as Jackson County in the Kansas City area. All of those went to Joe Biden, President Joe Biden getting those counties. So if Trudy Bush Valentine was to win the U.S. Senate seat in Missouri, she would have to get a higher percentage of votes in those counties and flip some of the counties that in 2020 went to President Trump. So it is an uphill battle for her tonight, but that's what we're going to be looking at throughout the night. How things went in 2020 in the presidential election versus how votes are coming in for this year in 2022 for the U.S. Senate seat. Corey Samantha, back to you.
We'll be breaking down a lot. All right, Paige, thank you. And here is another look right now at the results for Amendment 3 in Missouri. If passed, this would legalize marijuana in the state. No reports in yet, but do want to remind you that more of that exclusive polling that Paige just mentioned, of the polling in Missouri, 61% of voters said they planned on passing this. 28% said no. So David Amilati is following this issue tonight from Ballpark Village, where supporters of Amendment 3 have gathered.
Good evening, Corey. We probably have about 30, 40 people in the room so far, and one of them is Jason Nelson. He's the CEO of Belief Medical. And here we are waiting for those results to come in, trying to get recreational adult use marijuana legalized in Missouri. What is your mindset right now? You've got a lot of money invested in this industry.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Obviously, the prospect of putting a vote up to the people is, it's exciting and still not a done deal yet. The results haven't come in, so anticipation is a good thing.
So obviously you have the things that are in your mind. This is an issue that impacts everyone watching at home, especially if you are someone who is looking to buy. Talk about how recreational use marijuana can actually help build up our communities. You're doing some work with St. Louis Community College trying to teach the next generation how to cultivate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right off the top, jobs and tax base increases are understood comfortably. But the support we can levy to someone like St. Louis Community College, who has engaged in the subject matter, bringing that education to students who want to consider entering the industry, whether they choose to or not, to support those kind of initiatives really does give us the chance to do that good work and open up the umbrella to an even bigger population who might be interested in the profession.
And talk about how you're trying to bring jobs to the community. I mean, you're over there by the Lemp Mansion. There's head of household jobs needed there, and you're talking about doubling your workforce if this passes tonight?
Yeah, 100%. As we look at what that means, it is essentially those communities that need good jobs, that ultimately haven't had as much investment from traditional industry, that for us to be able to invest in those spaces, that will continue either way, but with an adult use program in place, it goes much more quickly and the investment is much more robust.
Jason, thank you so much for your time. They are predicting, advocates say, $1 billion industry in Missouri by year 3. We're going to continue to follow this race here from Ballpark Village. We'll send it back to you in studio.
David, thank you. Moving back to Illinois, our Melanie Johnson tracking some of the big races for us there tonight live in studio. In fact, Melanie, some of these have already been called.
Sam and Cora, we've already got 2 declared winners over in Illinois. They have been declared winners as soon as those polls close. The Illinois governor race has been called. J.B. Pritzker, the Democrat, leading in those results tonight. 61% of the vote against Darren Bailey, the Republican opponent. 3% of those reporting, but the AP has already declared him a winner. Also already declared tonight the race for Illinois U.S. Senate, Tammy Duckworth, leading her opponent, Republican Kathy Salvi, at 61% of the vote. Over 150,000 votes counted for Tammy Duckworth. Again, that has already been called by the AP. Tammy Duckworth winning that race for the Illinois U.S. Senate. Again, we'll stay on top of the rest of these races as they come in and the results are being called.
And really no surprises there. Both of those candidates expected to win their campaigns tonight. All right, Melanie, thank you. Well, numbers are starting to roll in for the county executive seat in St. Louis County. I want to look at those numbers, if we can flash those up. This is U.S. House District 2 between Ann Wagner and Trish Gumby. But we're going to get those numbers for you at St. Louis County in just a little bit here.
Okay, let's get you a look at where our Gabrielle Vidal is tonight. She is at that Missouri House District 2 race. Gabby, tell us where you are and how the atmosphere is there. You looks like you've moved to Trish Gumby.
Yes, Sam, I'm at the Trish Gumby party, which is supposed to start around 8 o'clock, and she's going to be trickling in around 9 o'clock. So it's still pretty early right now. Not a lot of people here. They're still getting set up as these numbers start to roll in. Now, just taking a look at the St. Louis County numbers, and these are just like these are the absentee numbers that are rolling in right now. Gumby is leading just over 54% to Ann Wagner. But again, this is not just a district that includes St. Louis County. It also includes Franklin, Warren, and parts of St. Charles County. So we will be waiting to see what those results will bring in and whether or not the incumbent, Ann Wagner, will continue to hold that seat that she's had since 2013, or if Democratic candidate Trish Gumby will hold the seat. Now, a lot of people were going to start trickling in later on tonight. And like I said, she plans to be here at 9 o'clock tonight. Now, there have been some talks about how since the redistricting of this particular congressional seat, the thought is that this would skew more Republican, with Franklin and Warren County being in the mix. But we'll wait to see what this could entail, because there's been a lot of support for Trish Gumby's support for women's right to abortion, also common sense and gun legislation. So we'll wait to see, if that was enough to encourage voters to vote Democrat, or if people will stay with Ann Wagner and her perspective, which she wants to be the conservative voice that is tough on Biden administration, as well as reducing inflation and tackling crime, as well as illegal immigration at the border. So very differing perspectives. So we'll see how voters responded to that.
Gabriela Vidal, live for us there. Thank you. And the polls have been closed now for the last 37 minutes or so. And our Caroline Hecker monitored how voting went today. And we're going to check in with her right now. Caroline?
Well, guys, I can tell you that we just got some of the results from the both early voting and absentee ballots that were cast here in St. Louis County. Those results in, it was far more than in 2018, and that's something the election board said they kind of expected. If you look, this is the tab room, so this is where all of your paper ballots are coming from the different precincts. Look right there on the table. That is an example of some of the hard drives that I was talking about earlier that have all of the information from different polling places on them, eventually put into machines in this room and tabulated. Again, it took about 35 minutes or so to get all of the about more than 70,000 absentee and early voting ballots that were done in St. Louis County prior to Election Day, and I was told they were not counted prior to today. However, when I spoke with election leaders in St. Charles County, they already had their absentee and early voting ballots counted, and were waiting until the polls closed at 7 o'clock to release that information. Right now, like I said, we're waiting on our first shipment of actual ballots and thumb drives coming from different polling locations, and we'll be sure to update you when we get those. We're live in St. Anne. Caroline Hecker, News 4.
Caroline, thanks for that perspective. Let's check back now with the race for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat. 1% of the precincts reporting there, 55% for Trudy Bush Valentine, 44% for Eric Schmidt, but we'll continue to track those results between these two.
And that seat is being vacated by longtime Missouri Senator Republican Roy Blunt.
As we monitor this race, let's get right over to Alexis Zotos at the Schmidt campaign party tonight. Alexis?
Sam, Corey, we are here in Maryland Heights at the Westport Plaza Sheraton, where you can hear the energy starting to ramp up a little bit. The music's been bumped up. There's more people, although it's still a really small crowd for a watch party on such a big night. But I think that there's a lot of people who are feeling very confident about this race. Of course, the polling saw Attorney General Eric Schmidt well a ways ahead of his opponent in this race. But of course, it all comes down to what happens today and what voters do at the polls. I spoke with the former GOP party chairwoman here in Missouri about why she thinks that Eric Schmidt needs to go to Washington to represent Missouri and what she'd like to see as the first things the Republicans do in office.
Excessive spending leads to inflation, and that's what we see. That's what's happening. I hope that's the very first thing they do. And then second, I would say, is let's get a handle on crime. We really need that.
Inflation and crime, those are the two big things that she said she'd like to see as a grandmother, as a mother. Other supporters here of Eric Schmidt say they'd like to see him continue to fight for Missourians in the same way he did as Attorney General. A lot of the people have been supporters of him for a while. You know, he was a Missouri state senator before he was Attorney General. They say they hope he will take that knowledge, that experience to Washington, D.C. if he's elected as our next U.S. Senator here in Missouri. We'll keep watching and bring it back to you when we get more.
Alexis, thank you. Now we head to South St. Louis City. That is where Trudy Bush Valentine is holding her watch party tonight. Our Jenna Ray is there for us.
Hi, Corey. Things are definitely picking up here in South St. Louis City tonight. As you can hear the live band behind me, there's a few dozen Trudy Bush Valentine supporters pouring in as the doors opened just before 7 o'clock for her supporters to get here. We know tonight Trudy Bush Valentine is with her family behind closed doors, spending time with them and watching those election results come in. As we mentioned, only 1% of the polls are reporting right now. Trudy Bush Valentine actually in the lead at the moment. Still a long way to go and a long night ahead. I talked with supporters here who say they're happy and proud to see Trudy Bush Valentine in this race. A lot of people here tonight still repping their Trudy Bush Valentine t-shirts. Some people even coming in with signs. Her team and her supporters still remaining very optimistic in this U.S. Senate race. Again, candidate Eric Schmidt was expected to win and is expected to win polling-wise, but her supporters and her team are remaining optimistic tonight. Back to you.
Okay, Jenna, thank you for that update. Some more results coming in that we want to update you on. This for St. Louis County Executive incumbent and Democrat Sam Page running against Mark Montevani, who is on the Republican ticket. Right now, Sam Page leading with 58% of the vote, 41% for Mark Montevani at this point tonight, with those early numbers being reported.
And a lot of people's eyes on this race, not only locally, but across the country tonight. This is the newly redrawn 13th congressional district in Illinois between Nikki Budzinski and Regan Deering. With very early in this, 69% for Budzinski, 31% for Deering. But again, 0% of the precincts reporting there. So a lot still can happen there.
Definitely. And still ahead in this midterm election edition of News 4, we check back in with our local political experts to get their take on the numbers that we're seeing so far. That's coming up next.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
All you have to do is rise.
We'll help you shine.
Blueberry muffin? Thank you. News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us. We're watching out for you every morning.
He's guilty as hell.
Speeding in a Maserati on Gravois.
You killed someone. You killed someone. He's gone.
5 years later, the driver still not held accountable.
Our system's just corrupt.
News 4 investigates why this family's still fighting for justice.
Oh, he hasn't spent a second behind bars.
Thursday at 10 on News 4.
Something needs to be done.
Welcome back. News 4 has a look at some exclusive early numbers tonight as voting results come in. Our Paige Holsey is tracking those for us right now in the studio. Hey, Paige.
Right. KMOV partnered with the Associated Press for this exclusive polling that helps us understand the way that voters are feeling as they head to the polls and why they are voting for the things they are voting for. So take a look at this insight showing that 82% of the Missouri voters we talked to think that the country is moving in the wrong direction. When we look at that, those who think the country is moving in the wrong direction, 63% of them plan to vote for Attorney General Eric Schmidt for the Senate seat. Now, let's flip that around. Only 18% of the Missouri voters that we talked to believe that the country is moving in the right direction. Of that 18% who think things are going well, 83% of them plan to vote for Trudy Bush Valentine for that open U.S. Senate seat. So this is really helping us understand how voters are feeling before they cast their vote for an extremely important race for the U.S. Senate seat in Missouri. As we told you, so many voters in Missouri worried about who will have control of the U.S. Senate. Corey,
And
Samantha?
speaking on that page, we want to toss it over to our Lauren Traeger. She has gathered a panel of former politicians and experts with local politics and across the bi-state.
And of course, that's how voters were feeling, and we will hear what they were actually thinking at the polls as those numbers continue to roll in throughout the night. But I do want to bring in this panel of our rock star experts who have been there, done that. And for those just joining us, want to reintroduce you guys as well. Former Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, former St. Louis City Alderman Antonio French, former state GOP head Gene Evans, and Congressman Rodney Davis. So guys, I know you are watching the numbers right now. It is early. But especially in Missouri, we're kind of seeing more numbers because of this no excuse absentee voting. Is that telling you all something about how the night's going to go?
Well, it helps with turnout. It gives people more opportunity to vote, and that's good for everybody. You know, we want people to participate in this democracy, no matter which side they're voting on. So, regardless of how it turns out tonight, that is a step in the right direction for the state.
So let's stick with local here, the county executive race. Gene, I know you're watching that one pretty closely with Mark Montevani and the incumbent Sam Page. Interested in how it's shaking out so far?
Yeah, I think their camp felt like if they could stay in the $10,000 to $15,000 vote range,
A little more dollars than
advantage through early voting, then they still had a shot. And you're definitely seeing from the returns more Democrats, and the more progressive you are, the more likely you are to vote early. And more Republicans tend to vote on the day of the election.
If Sam Page wins, is that it for the Republicans? Can they take that seat back? Can anyone beat Sam Page, so to speak?
I think it's very difficult for a Republican to win. You know, I looked at some polling when the other candidate was looking to drop out, and we tested some different candidates. And even though in none of the polling Page got over 45%, none of the Democrats could beat him, just because it's such a heavily Democratic county at this time. So even in what is probably going to be a wave year, it's still difficult in this county. And you see that in Jackson County as well, where it's tough to beat the Democratic incumbent, just because in general people tend to vote, especially now, there are not as many ticket splitters. They tend to vote with the top of the ticket, and they tend to vote the way they always have, with very little. There are very few swing voters or independents anymore.
And I know you guys are both watching the city race very closely for president of the Board of Aldermen. Is this about becoming more purple, or is this about going much deeper blue and the progressives really, really taking hold in the city?
Yeah, this is going to be a consequential race. This will really determine the direction of the city for the years to come, whether the city will continue to move further to the left or if there will be an effort to move it further to the center again. You have two very different visions in these two candidates. And whatever happens tonight will really determine whether or not a lot of people will continue to invest in the city, stay in the city, or continue to leave.
And Congressman, I know you are looking closely at what's going to happen in Congress. It looks like some local folks could really take on some more leadership roles, especially if Republicans take control. What do you think would be key for the Republicans to do here to really make sure that they stay in power even in the next 2 years?
Well, we got to continue what night we're seeing nationwide when it comes to House victories. We're a few seats away from being able to have the margin we need to take over the House and make Kevin McCarthy Speaker. If Kevin McCarthy is Speaker of the House, what you're going to see is you're going to see Missouri's power in Congress grow. Ranking Member Sam Graves on transportation infrastructure will be Chairman Sam Graves. Ranking Member Luke DeMeyer on small business will be Chairman Luke DeMeyer. You have Jason Smith running for Chairman of Ways and Means, one of the most powerful committees in Congress. You have Ann Wagner continuing to grow her leadership profile too. And then we've got two new freshman members that will be Republican, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them come into Congress and succeed. And Missouri is going to be a focal point of where the power lies in the House.
Governor Pritzker, Senator Duckworth winning their races, of course, declared tonight. How did they speak to Southern Illinoisans, though, who see very differently from them?
Well, they don't, and frankly, it's not a surprise that they won. I would argue when you see the results come in, Southern Illinois, Central Illinois, and the rural areas are going to give J.B. Pritzker a terrible rebuke. But J.B. Pritzker spent $32 million to get Darren Bailey as his candidate running against him. He knew Darren Bailey would be the weakest candidate. And to be declared the victor 2 minutes after the polls closed just tell you how bad a candidate Darren Bailey was.
Governor, you're chuckling a little bit, I think, because you're saying this is division. This is what it is. They don't speak to each other. Is there a way for this country to get a little closer, to unite, to speak to the middle folks?
People ask me sometimes on the Democrat side when Trump got elected, was I concerned? And certainly I was concerned, but I was much more concerned about the voters, the people. I really think people need to continue to get more engaged. I think the voting numbers here going up is very good, but they now need to take the next step and get involved in the issues and the substance of what's going on in this country, so that when we have elections, it's not just about a term or the way something looks or feels. It's about which direction we should take as a country. The folks that take over Congress, assuming the Republicans win the House, aren't getting a clear message as to what their mandate is to do. And in my view, the public is not sending a clear enough mandate in that situation. So I am hopeful. The optimism I have is that the younger voters are going to say, all right, we had those, we saw those ads, we did that. Now what are we going to do? Are we actually going to get control of this country, get people working together, and move forward?
You guys disagree with that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that you're seeing when people are talking about the direction of the country and whether or not they feel optimistic or not, and they're upset with how things are going, is that they see everybody just yelling at each other and not getting anything done. And so I think you're seeing a lot of people voting, and this may work in the favor of some Republicans tonight, to kind of make these folks balance in Washington and force them to try to compromise. I don't know if that's going to be the result, but I think a lot of voters are going to the polls hoping that will be the result.
And what influence does the former president, Donald Trump, have on that? Is he still the voice of that party, or does that party start to move away from his voice?
I think he wants to be the voice, and we've seen him do a lot of things in the last few days to draw attention to himself with these elections. And, you know, I think there were a lot of candidates in some of these swing districts who were concerned that he was maybe around a little too much, because we still have swing voters who don't like the president. So they like Republican policies, but they didn't necessarily care for the Republican president. And so I think there were a lot of candidates who are like, you know, maybe it would be best for them if President Trump just kind of took a back seat, at least until after the election.
Yeah, President Trump's strength is in the Republican primary. Look, I'm a prime example. This is the most stress-free election night I've had in 10 years. This is great. But, you know, in the end, he still wields a lot of influence, and I'm a prime example of that. But as you get into a general election, and this is where you start to see where J.B. Pritzker and the Democrats, who constantly talk at the state and national level about not boosting election deniers, not boosting these far-right candidates, but they sure put their money behind these far-right candidates, because they know in the general election, somebody like that is going to have a harder time beating the Democrat. I would believe Democrats nationally and in Illinois were more altruistic if they didn't spend money trying to get the candidates they wanted in. Illinois is going to be a prime example of how there's going to be long-term consequences of those investments, because any high horse that national Democrats thought they'd be on, criticizing Donald Trump and his supporters, was washed away with their millions of dollars.
I've never criticized his supporters, and I think you're right. I think some people have criticized their supporters, and I think that is a line that shouldn't be crossed in a democracy. When you go into that voting booth, you should be able to vote for whoever you want to vote for, and then criticizing it later on. But I do think that the fellow that was president, that lost the presidency, lost the House, and lost the Senate when he had unlimited funding, running against someone who was almost 80 years old at the time. If the Republicans are goofy enough to try that game again, they're going to get beat even worse in 2024.
And of course, we're going to want to talk about President Biden as well and his influence in all of this. A lot more to talk about. We're going to keep watching those numbers, guys. I know you're going to get back on your laptop. So we'll check back in with you in just a few minutes. But for now, we will send it back to you guys in the studio.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
I want to thank you for joining us on News 4 on this election night.
And you were taking a look at some of the top races. The first one here, the Missouri U.S. Senate race. Very early in this, but Trudy Bush Valentine with 66% of the vote, Eric Schmidt 33% of the vote in that one.
On the other side of the river, another closely watched race is that for Illinois U.S. Senate. Tammy Duckworth being called on that one by the AP as the winner. That coming in really early tonight as those early numbers started to come in.
And also in Illinois, this was just moments after polls closed at 7 o'clock. The AP projecting J.B. Pritzker winning re-election for governor in Illinois.
And here's Illinois' Amendment 1. This would amend the state constitution to say that employees have a fundamental right to organize and collectively bargain throughout representatives. Right now, it looks like that is voted with a yes at 81%, 2% of the precincts reporting, however, in this. Now, turning to Missouri, this is a look at where Amendment 3 stands. That would legalize recreational marijuana in the state. 58% voting yes on that right now, 42% voting no, just 1% of precincts reporting in these early numbers. Our David Amilati is downtown where those for Amendment 3 have gathered at Ballpark Village to watch the results come in. David.
The volume level here at Ballpark Village is significantly louder when those first results started to show. And like you just said, just a few precincts reporting, but a lead is a lead for the folks here, and they're excited about it. Look over here to my left, you're seeing folks walking in, getting ready for that buffet to open up. And then, of course, over here to my right, you're seeing folks in line trying to get a beer. One of the big talking points for Amendment 3, those who support it, is the big industry this could bring to Missouri. We're talking about $1 billion industry, and there's a couple factors that allows them to project that. One, it's the success of medicinal marijuana. Missouri is averaging $360 million in sales with medicinal marijuana, according to the state. The state also says since October 2020, you're looking at $460 million in revenue off medicinal marijuana. 3 years' time, they're saying $1 billion for recreational marijuana sales in the state of Missouri. We're monitoring things here live at Ballpark Village. David Amilati, News 4.
David, thank you. Now to the race for the District 13 in Illinois. That is between Republican Regan Deering and Democrat Nikki Budzinski. A lot of eyes on this race. And Shoshana Stahl is following that. She traveled to Springfield for that. Shoshana?
Yeah, it may look quiet behind me right now, but the doors just opened to Nikki Budzinski's watch party here in Springfield. Regan Deering's, like you mentioned, she's the Republican candidate being held in Decatur. Both candidates telling News 4 that their top priority in this race, if they're elected, is dealing with the economy, whether that's high inflation and how that's impacting the people here in Illinois, or just bringing more workforce and more jobs into District 13, which is a newly drawn district because all of Illinois' congressional districts were part of a new map. So that district now stretches to the Metro East and up to Central Illinois, where we are right now here in Springfield. Like you mentioned, it's still early. We're going to be tracking this race throughout the night, going inside, being part of this watch party, and just seeing. So we're going to keep you updated with those results as they come in on air and online. Reporting live in Springfield, Shoshana Stahl, News 4.
And a lot of pollsters calling that race a toss-up for tonight, so we'll be watching that.
Very, very closely on that one. And you can join us for a special online edition of News 4 right now. We are online on your KMOV News app, KMOV.com, and on Facebook. We'll be back with live team coverage here on air at 10 p.m. right here on KMOV.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
Inflation got you down? We're here to help. Free coffee, free gas, free groceries, free utilities, and a free fun night out. This November's free for you. For your chance to win, go to KMOV.com/contest for more information. Good morning, St. Louis.
News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us.
We're watching out for you
every morning.
You deserve to be first. First to know when you're going to need a little extra protection, or something to keep you dry, or extra time in the morning, or when you need to run for these. Hey, if weather's going to mess up your day,
watch News 4 and you'll be first with First Alert Weather.
First for you.
All day, every day.
First Alert Weather.
Steve Templeton and the First Alert Weather Team.
Yeah, we're watching out for you.
I will work for the people of Missouri. I will keep our democracy strong.
Not just from Missouri, but for Missouri, everybody.
We'll continue working on the things that we do well in local government.
The county government generally has been dysfunctional.
19 states have legalized marijuana. Now it's our turn, Missouri.
This amendment does not equal decriminalization.
We're operating at 30 jobs now. We'll double that to 60 if Amendment 3 passes.
Your children's future will always be my top priority.
It's never been more important for people to vote. Right now.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
And here at 8 o'clock, welcome back to this special midterm election edition of News 4.
And right now we are monitoring the results that are starting to come in the biggest races all across the bi-state. Here's a look at the Missouri U.S. Senate race right now. Trudy Busch Valentine leading in this with 66% of the vote. Eric Schmidt trailing at 33%, though we should note it is just 1% of precincts that are reporting in this race. And we are just reporting early numbers at this point. Our Alexis Zotos is at the Schmidt campaign watch party and joins us live now. Alexis.
Sam, we are live in Maryland Heights at the Westport Sheraton. I can tell you the party is pretty quiet. There's really not that many people here. Those that are here are really glued to the TV screens as they are watching the results roll in. Most of them watching those national election results come in because, as you mentioned, very few votes have come in locally here, especially in this U.S. Senate race. I just texted with the Schmidt campaign. They tell me they are feeling very good about tonight. I can tell you that the Attorney General is here at the hotel. He is watching the election results with his family. They had pizza tonight. That's their election night tradition. We've been talking with supporters here who say they feel really good about Eric Schmidt's chances of heading to Washington as Missouri's next U.S. Senator. They say things like inflation, crime, those are top of mind and things that they want to see addressed immediately in Washington. We're going to continue watching as these results roll in and bring you anything new that happens here live in Maryland Heights. We'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Alexis, thank you. And on the Democratic side of this race, that's where we find Jenna Ray following Trudy Busch Valentine's watch party. We're going to take a live look at that right now, as it looks like St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones has showed up for the watch party. She is speaking. Want to dip in and we can listen to what the mayor is saying right now.
Give Trudy a round of applause so she can hear us wherever she is. And I know that she's going to say it later, but I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for supporting her candidacy. This has been one of the most diverse campaigns that I've seen in a long time on a statewide level. Not only from people that were canvassing door to door, but all the way up to the top. And so that also shows that Trudy believes in inclusion and diversity and wants to make sure that everybody has a voice and a seat at the table. So for those reasons and many more, I was proud to support her, and I know you were proud to support her too. So let's get this party continuing, and come on, Cheryl, I know you got another song in you. But again, thank you all for coming, and let's get this party going, and we're going to celebrate all night long. Trudy!
And that is Mayor Tashara Jones of St. Louis City speaking at Trudy Busch Valentine's campaign party tonight on the Democratic side of the U.S. Senate race here in Missouri. We want to now get you a look at the race for St. Louis County Executive. Here's where those numbers stand at this point tonight. Sam Page leading with 58% of the vote. Mark Montevani, the Republican, trying to unseat Sam Page, who's seeking his second term, with 41% of the vote for Montevani tonight, though it does say 0% of precincts reporting these, of course, early numbers.
And Russell Kidsaw is at Dr. Sam Page's campaign watch party tonight. What's the atmosphere like there, Russell?
They're feeling very upbeat here after those first votes come in. Those are the no excuse absentee voting, looking very strong for Sam Page. He's here with me now. What's your first reaction to seeing that the early numbers coming in have you at 57%?
Well, that's a strong performance. It's really consistent with the feedback I got at the polls today. A lot of spontaneous support in all corners of the county.
So the absentee votes, these are the no excuse absentee votes. I did see whenever I covered that, I went around to different polling places out in West County where there are higher concentrations of Republicans. They had much more people out voting, but you've got good numbers. What does that turnout in the no excuse voting tell you, or are you reading anything into that?
Well, as a general rule, the absentee ballots trends will hold, but we're going to wait and watch the numbers and see what happens. I can tell you that I was in West County today and South County today, and I got a lot of positive feedback in areas that are traditionally Republican voters.
So your opponent, Mark Montevani, as he campaigned, he kept talking about how county government is in chaos and we can do better. But you turn right around and say, actually, county government has accomplished a lot in the last several years. Tell me about the contrast in views between you and your opponent.
Well, county government has accomplished a great deal. The accomplishments don't necessarily draw a lot of attention. Generally, the attention goes to the few things that we disagree on. And really, the strategy of my political opponents has been to create as much conflict as possible and then point at the conflict and say, look at that. And that's just what you see in politics sometime, but it's all going to be over tonight.
Confident you're going to win?
I'm feeling pretty good right now. Let's just see what the numbers show.
Yep. Thanks very much. Campaign supporters here very upbeat about the early numbers coming in so far. Now back to you.
Russell, thank you. And Susan El-Khoury is following the Mark Montevani campaign. She is live tonight in Brentwood. Obviously, Susan, we just talked about this. It's early, but some of those early numbers are positive for Dr. Sam Page. What is the mood there right now?
Well, everyone here says they're just still watching those polls. They're optimistic and they're hopeful as more results come in, it'll start to sway in Mark Montevani's favor. Now, we did just talk to him earlier. He said he just wishes these results would come out faster and they would know who ends up taking this race. But he spent today out talking to voters, visiting polling locations across the county. And he said what he's really hoping will make a difference with voters is his message that he wants to bring a change to county government. As you heard Russell say, he's saying that he believes that there have been issues in county government and he thinks that he's the right candidate to help bring that change, something that he's hoping resonated with voters. Here's something that he had to say to us earlier.
I have no regrets, but I'm curious to know how the voters responded. And, we'll start getting these results, I guess, in little drips and drops, and that just sort of drags it out. I almost wish they just told us who won and it was all over, but that's not the way it works. So we'll be here for a while, and but by the end of the night, we'll know.
Montevani telling us also, he says things are in the voters' hands right now, and he's just hoping things will end up in his favor. But again, everyone here just closely watching those polls, telling us they are staying optimistic. Of course, we'll be following what happens here. Back to you.
Susan, thank you. Our Melanie Johnson is in studio tracking some of the biggest races in Illinois. Melanie?
Corey and Sam, we already have declared winners for the governor race and the race for U.S. Senate. Here's a look at where the Illinois governor race is right now. The AP already declaring that J.B. Pritzker, the Democrat, will win his second term as Illinois governor. He was going against Darren Bailey, and these two candidates could not be more different. But J.B. Pritzker coming out with the win tonight with 15% reporting so far. But the AP already declaring that race. Tammy Duckworth, the veteran, getting 500,000 plus votes, 62% of the vote, already declared a winner by the AP. She was running against Chicago lawyer Kathy Salvi with 37%. But again, the AP has declared Tammy Duckworth the winner of the Illinois Senate race.
Okay, Melanie, thank you. We've talked a lot about the races that we're seeing here. Let's get you into some of the issues on your ballot. What you see here is Illinois Amendment 1, 65% of people voting in favor of that at this point tonight. But we also want to show you Amendment 3, that is to legalize recreational marijuana here in Missouri. I want to get you a look at what those results are right now. So far, 57% of people voting yes to that, 43% voting it down, 1% of precincts reporting. We should note, though, that our exclusive Survey USA polling said that 61% of the people that we polled would vote yes on this measure. We are following pretty closely along with those numbers at this point tonight.
And that polling showed 28% would say no.
Correct.
But David Amilotti is in downtown where those Amendment 3 supporters have gathered to watch those results tonight. David?
there's a lot of confidence. In fact, we'll show you the next time we check in with you. There's probably 20, 30 signs about vote yes on Amendment 3. There's a lot of pride here. You're seeing the crowd building. One of the things that we want to clarify, people want to know, what is this going to look like if Amendment 3 passes? We talked about that billion-dollar industry in the last hour, but right now there's 350 licenses in Missouri for various type of facilities in the state. That's testing labs, cultivation centers, dispensaries. If Amendment 3 passes, there is a minimum 144 new business licenses that will open up, and this is for businesses, and this could include lounges and municipalities for people to use product, because public use is still illegal if Amendment 3 passes. Something that's interesting is that with these 144 licenses, the state has to still figure out some rules in order to enact a lottery to give those 144 licenses away. That has to be done by the end of September. Now, it could definitely be done earlier, but September is the deadline. A lot of confidence here. I talked with John Payne. He's the executive director of Legal Missouri 2022, the real driving force behind Amendment 3. He is supposed to speak within the hour, and we will hear what he has to say. He doesn't want to jinx it. He says he's going to wait until every result is in. You're fine. He wants to wait until every result is in tonight. We're going to continue to follow the results as they come in here live at Ballpark Village. David Amilati, News 4.
Okay, David, we'll check back in with you here soon. We want to now go to our Caroline Hecker, who has been at the County Board of Elections watching the ballots come in and has been there with updates for us. How can you tell us now about how those ballots are coming in and how they're functioning there, Caroline?
Well, Sam, it seems to be running at a pretty good pace. I want to show you what this process looks like. We've got bipartisan representatives from every polling location that are dropping off. You're going to see blue bags and you're going to see orange pouches, and they are coming from various polling places across St. Louis County. And essentially what happens is they drop off the blue bags. Those are full of hundreds, if not thousands, of paper ballots. They can come up these types of conveyor belts. And once they do, they're placed on shelves here in the warehouse. And then there is also orange pouches that contain that hard drive that actually has the tabulation of all of the votes. They're all scanned in. Everyone knows where all of the bags are at all times. I'm told in total there are 239 of those ballot bags that would account for every single precinct. Right now, I can tell you there's probably maybe 24 of those bags that have been turned in so far. You can see they're scanned in as they arrive, so they know where they're at. They're immediately placed on the shelf, and then they get those hard drives that are included back to that room we were in earlier, the tabulation room, and they're sticking those hard drives into the tabulation machine, and that is how they are coming up with the vote total. I am told right now by Rick Stream with the Board of Elections that things are going at a good pace. It may seem slow, but he said they're moving at a good pace. They're finally able to get some of the ballots that were cast today into their system. Again, they had about more than 70,000 absentee and early voting ballots that were counted between about 7 o'clock and 7:40, but now we are finally getting into the ballots that were cast today. The women that are sitting at this table, you can see them with the orange pouches. They are processing the cell phones that are given to the poll workers, the hard drives, and again, they're going back. I can tell you also most of the blue bags at this point are in transit, according to some of the computer screens that they have here in the warehouse. That means they're not exactly here yet. But again, I can tell you guys they are working as fast as possible here in this warehouse at the Board of Elections, trying to fill all of these shelves eventually with these blue bags full of thousands of ballots. And while the unofficial results from tonight will be tabulated from those hard drives, they keep these, I'm told, in a very secure place. They are used in the need of a recount, all of those kinds of things. So the paper ballots and the hard drives all making their way back to the tabulation room here at the Board of Elections, and we're hoping more of those results start rolling in here very soon. Guys.
Either way, Caroline, we are now about an hour and 15 minutes since polls closed, and we were legally allowed by law to start counting those ballots. To know that we are so far into tonight's ballot is good news.
Yeah, and that's such an important look at behind the scenes, that whole process, and a great explanation from Caroline. And can we just say thank you to our poll workers and our election workers? I don't think that's said enough, but I was thinking that as I was voting today, that all these volunteers are great.
Yeah, as they're converging and bringing those ballots in for them to be counted. All right, our election night coverage continues tonight.
We'll be right back.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
All you have to do is rise.
We'll help you shine.
Blueberry muffin? Thank you. News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us. We're watching out for you every morning. He's guilty as hell.
Speeding in a Maserati on Gravois.
You killed someone. You killed someone. He's gone.
5 years later, the driver still not held accountable.
Our system's just corrupt.
News 4 investigates why this family's still fighting for justice.
Oh, he hasn't spent a second behind bars.
Thursday at 10 on News 4.
Something needs to be done.
Welcome back. In our studio tonight, we have gathered former politicians and experts on local politics across the bi-state.
Throughout the night, they've been giving unbelievable insight. Chief political reporter Lauren Traeger joins us live with that political panel right now. Lauren?
Yeah, it's so good to hear from these folks, and I want to introduce them again to you so you know who they are and who we're talking with here. We've got former Missouri Governor Jay Nixon, former St. Louis City Alderman Antonio French, former head of the state GOP in Missouri Gene Evans, and Congressman Rodney Davis. Again, you guys are giving us really good insight because all of you have run statewide or races, not quite statewide, but have run in your own elections. So it's kind of like a pulling back of the curtain of what might be going through the minds of these candidates right now. It is early, not a lot of numbers, but what are they? Are they nervous? Are they confident? Obviously depends on the race, but what's it like for them right now?
I was really bad on election days. They used to figure out ways to drive me around the state to keep me away from human beings most of those days. So I'm not a good person to ask. I mean, it's just very nerve-wracking when you have absolutely no control. Once the votes are cast, you have no control over it. But on the other hand, it's so inspiring to be in a place where that many people, millions of people, decide to use their constitutional rights to send their voice. So at one time it's nerve-wracking. On the other side, you feel like you're involved in a historic enterprise, and it's a good feeling.
And we just saw Caroline talking about the tabulations in the county coming in. Election integrity is such an important topic right now. Do you think that that is top of mind for voters, that their votes are going to be accurately counted?
Go ahead, Jean. I think so. I think that the Secretary of State here in Missouri has done a good job. I think we have consistently had safe, fair elections here. But I think nationally, and we've seen some places like in Maricopa County, which they perennially have issues, in Arizona, and some other places where there have been some concerns. But I think in Missouri, people feel pretty good about the elections, and certainly in St. Louis County, where we have folks from both sides of the aisle running the operation, and also in the city, and I think people feel pretty good about their votes. And it's all paper votes. It takes a little bit longer to vote than it used to, because we have all paper ballots and we don't have the electronic machines anymore.
And a lot of people talking about the voter ID requirement as well. I mean, do you think that that might have kept some people from the polls, especially when we look at, underrepresented communities a lot of times?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen too much evidence of that this time, especially with it being so easy to vote early. This time around, we've seen a lot of people participate. Well, a lot of votes were brought in very early. So as soon as the polls closed, we got to see at least 19,000 in the city of people who had voted before Election Day. So that's a good sign and making it easier for people to vote. I think if there's any worries that people had about whether or not their votes are being counted fairly, I think that's just based off of maybe misinformation that was being put out there. But the record has shown that no one in Missouri and in St. Louis and St. Louis County should really be worrying about that at all.
Well, voter ID is a key security measure that makes people feel comfortable about whether or not the election results are going to be counted correctly, whether or not they're going to be processed correctly. This is a big deal right now for both parties. I hear a lot of discussion about what is going to happen with election results. We have some of the safest election administration protocols in the world here in this country. But because states like Illinois don't use voter ID and other states don't use voter ID, people are going to be jazzed up by social media posts, jazzed up by candidates who want to talk about things without any factual evidence to back them up when it comes to election results and election fraud. And we have to look at things like Missouri has done, because like you said, underrepresented communities right here in St. Louis, in the city, you didn't see any adverse reaction to voter ID. It works, and we've got to stop this out of the ballpark rhetoric on both sides. Otherwise, it will destroy our democracy.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there agreement on that for everyone?
Well, as far as the voter ID, I don't know I think it was a solution looking for a problem, but I don't think it was a big problem in Missouri. But people are happy to do it, and it isn't stopping, I don't think, anybody from coming to the polls.
Yeah, voter fraud was a problem between Donald Trump and his hairstylist. It just isn't true. It has not. Nobody could come forward and show significant organized efforts. And on the other side of that coin, as a former prosecutor and somebody involved in that sort of stuff, if there were those things, we went after them. And we had good evidence, and if people got in trouble. I think people have confidence in our elective system. I think they're going to show it again. And Congressman, I would only say one thing. When you say we have one of the best in the world, I think the United States of America in this situation is by far the best in the world as far as voter confidence in what happens, in my opinion.
I didn't come here to agree with you, Governor. But
Wait a second.
I was just wondering which of the countries you thought were close to us. Was it the Italians and their new Mussolini, or was it the Russians and their fake elections, or I'm not sure which ones you're going to choose.
It wasn't that long ago in 2016 in the primary in the city where Bruce Franks was running against an incumbent. I think it was Hubbard, one of the Hubbards, and there was voter fraud there. I think
and what happened? Prosecuted, new election, new person.
But it's the
system took care of it.
But it is very difficult to prove voter fraud, and that is why you need to clean it up on the front end. So
the person that did the fraud's in jail. The other person's in the State House.
And it wasn't election. It wasn't election day fraud. Yes, those of us who have run all these campaigns in the past, we have a tough enough time getting people to vote once. Yeah. So I've never had a problem with people trying to vote multiple times.
I think everybody should vote. I would hope everyone would. I think we'd all be happy if they would. I think this difference between Democrats and Republicans, I've never met anybody running for office that didn't want people to vote.
Right.
They want people to vote. I think we all do. And I think that any system that makes it easier, and I didn't have any trouble showing my ID to use my credit card to get the gas to go to vote. Right. And I didn't really see where it infringed on me. Now, if you don't have an ID, I understand that. I understand how certain communities it's more difficult, and the state should have the ability to take care of that. But and I don't mean to say it's not a total issue, but I do think that this election has been smooth, and I think that has not hurt. I do
got to disagree with you on one thing, though. Good. What I found is that a lot of folks want their folks to vote, not necessarily want everybody to vote. They definitely want their folks to come out and vote.
If it gets popular to say people shouldn't vote, then we need to look at what this democracy is all about.
Well, the only reason Republicans aren't in charge in the Senate is because former President Trump told Georgians in the special runoff elections for 2 Senate seats that their vote may not count. The turnout was lower in the very Republican areas of Georgia that cost David Perdue that Senate seat to John Ossoff and cost Kelly Loeffler her Senate seat to Raphael Warnock. We wouldn't even be looking at what's happening in Georgia right now. We would have a Republican majority in the Senate if our own side didn't do what Democrats have done in the past, start talking about voter suppression. Our votes didn't count. Understand how elections work. If you have a doubt about election processes, go get to know your local election administrator. County clerks in Illinois. Absolutely. I don't know what you call them here in Missouri, but I've been called a vote suppressionist in Washington. I've been told that the highest turnout level we've had in mid-year and presidential election doesn't matter. I'm a vote suppressionist. We got to stop this over-the-top rhetoric. Otherwise, it's hurting America. Yeah. It's hurting what we do right.
It's important for folks to have faith in the system.
And we're certainly finding that people are not having a lot of faith right now. They're feeling pretty bummed out about the state of things. We're going to talk a lot more about that, and obviously keep looking at these numbers as well as they roll in, because that's going to tell us a lot about how people are feeling as well. So thanks again for everything, guys. I really appreciate it. We will send it back to you guys in the studio.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
I want to thank you for joining us for News 4 on this election night. And right off the bat, we want to let you know that J.B. Pritzker is the projected winner by the AP for Illinois governor.
Tammy Duckworth also the projected winner by the AP in her race. News 4 is monitoring the race in Missouri for its U.S. Senate seat. We want to get you a look at those numbers right now. Trudy Bush Valentine is leading in this race with 57% of the vote. And Eric Schmidt with 41%, just 2% of precincts reporting in this.
And let's look at the race for Missouri's 2nd district between incumbent Ann Wagner and Democrat Trish Gumby. Again, very early in this one, but this is the Board of Aldermen president, Megan Green, 56%, Jack Coder with 44%. But again, as I said, still early in this one. Now we want to go to that 2nd district congressional race between Trish Gumby and Ann Wagner. 53% of the vote for Gumby, Ann Wagner 45%. But I'll say it again, very early still in this one. But Gabriella Vidal is following this race for us tonight. Gabby?
Yeah, Corey, with only 10% of the votes reported, people are still waiting here anxiously to see if Trish Gumby will be the winner of Missouri's 2nd congressional district. I'm here at this watch party happening right now where she will be here before 9 o'clock and later make a speech once the results are finalized. But I'm joined with a volunteer for the Trish Gumby campaign, Royce Haynes. Tell me a little bit about what got you involved in her campaign. What were some of the key issues that you think voters resonated with?
So for nearly 10 years, Ann Wagner's been in office, and for nearly 10 years, she's been absent from Missouri's 2nd congressional district. Throughout this time, she's not been accountable to voters, and I think that's a bipartisan issue everybody can get on board with, is the fact that you're not being accountable for the votes you're making in D.C. She becomes so withdrawn from Missouri's 2nd congressional district, which now has Franklin and Warren County, that she no longer represents the voters who put her there in the first place. I think that's the main issue that we ran our campaign on, is somebody who actually answers for their votes. Like Trish gave her phone number out and said, call me if you have a question. That's not Ann. Trish is your neighbor next door. That's not Ann Wagner.
Well, I want to thank you so much. And yeah, like you said, one of her key sort of slogans was more tires, more tennis shoes. So that's a big thing that they've been promoting for this campaign. But we'll see how this race continues as the votes keep coming in.
All right, Gabby, let's hop over to Illinois in the race for District 13. That's between Republican Regan Deering and Democrat Nikki Budzinski. As you can see, these early numbers, 16% of the precincts reporting, 57% for Budzinski, Deering with 43%. Shoshana Stahl is following that race live in Springfield.
Corey, it's a very different scene right now than when I last checked in with you guys. I'm going to move out of the way so you can see now inside of the watch party where supporters are gathering for Nikki Budzinski. We haven't heard from the candidate yet tonight, but we're told she will be speaking to us in just a few hours as those early results, like you mentioned, are continuing to pour in. Regan Deering, her watch party's happening in Decatur, so about 45 minutes away from here. We're just waiting as supporters are starting to float in. This watch party happened just a few moments ago. Both the candidates, once again, their top priority in this race is the economy, so we're waiting to see just as you mentioned, those early results come in. We're going to keep you updated with that throughout this race tonight on KMOV on air and online. Reporting live in Springfield, Shoshana Stahl, News 4. All
right, Shoshana, thank you. And you can catch our special online edition of News 4 right now on our OTT app and KMOV.com. We'll see you there.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
Inflation got you down, we're here to help. Free coffee, free gas, free groceries, free utilities, and a free fun night out. This November's free for you. For your chance to win, go to KMOV.com/contest for more information. Good morning, St. Louis.
News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us.
We're watching out for you
every morning.
You deserve to be first. First to know when you're going to need a little extra protection, or something to keep you dry, or extra time in the morning, or when you need to run for these. Hey, if weather's going to mess up your day,
watch News 4 and you'll be first with First Alert Weather.
First for you.
All day, every day.
First Alert Weather.
Steve Templeton and the First Alert Weather Team.
Yeah, we're watching out for you.
And welcome back to this special midterm election edition of News 4.
Right now we are monitoring the results as they're coming in some of the biggest races across the bi-state. Let's get you a look at our team coverage. We have people in all corners of the bi-state, spanning the area, talking with candidates as we all are awaiting tonight's outcome. We want to now get you over to our Paige Holsey, who's here in studio. Paige, you've got some good insight for us. Walk us through it.
Yeah, sorry, we're trying to, you know how these computers can be a little flaky on these nights, and we're going a little crazy here. But let me walk you through this exclusive data that we had as KMOV partnered with the Associated Press for this insight. I want to talk more about what we're seeing as far as what votes are in when we're looking at this U.S. Senate seat. So as we zoom into our map, we've been talking about right now, Trudy Bush Valentine has the lead with 50% of the vote, with 111 votes counted right now. This is still only 8% of votes being counted. We need to look at where those votes that have been counted are coming in from. Again, I said she had 111,000 votes. If we look at St. Louis County alone, 52,000 votes for her came from St. Louis County. So this is what we expected. You're going to see a similar result if we go into the city of St. Louis. You see that's in the county again. Sorry, this is really touchy here as we try to get into the city. So then another 15,000 votes in the city of St. Louis. So while we do see Trudy Bush Valentine leading right now, it's really important to look at where those votes that have been counted for her are coming from. Those are areas that we would expect her to lead. So we'll keep an eye on that and certainly expect Eric Schmidt to get more in these other outlying counties, especially the rural areas. While we're looking at these maps, I thought you might be interested in seeing where the yes and no votes are coming for the amendment to legalize recreational marijuana. City of St. Louis County, even Jefferson County, all voting to approve that. But again, we're only looking at 7% of the vote. I want to get to one more thing before I let you go, just a little bit more insight as far as what voters are thinking and feeling as they vote for the U.S. Senate candidate. This showing us that let me get to Missouri. You know what? I'll send it back to you guys when we get this sorted out. We will give you that updated information here as this screen just crashed, so we have to get back into our data. Corey Smith will bring that to you when we can.
Yeah, but as Paige explained, really important to know where those votes are coming from at this point. And bottom line, they've got a lot of counting to do. We're early in the night for these races. Well, Paige just mentioned it, Amendment 3. This is a look at that, the Missouri amendment that would legalize recreational marijuana. 4% reporting in this one, according to this data. 54% with a yes, 46 saying no. Let's head things out to David Amilotti live now at Ballpark Village, where supporters of that amendment have gathered tonight. David?
Just like you said, Corey, the numbers are tight. This room is aware. We're joined with Ryan Quinones, who is the statewide coordinator of Legal Missouri 2022. That's the main driving force behind Amendment 3. Give us a sense of the temperature of this room. Supporters in this room following the race. How are we feeling at about 8:30 tonight?
Yeah, everyone is feeling very excited. Obviously, a lot of people in this room have been at the polls all day, have been part of our signature collection effort. They have either donated money or they have helped get the word out to their communities, their community spokespeople, or they've been very active online getting the word out, making sure that Missourians know that 2022 is the year that Missouri has the opportunity to pass the most comprehensive and progressive adult use marijuana legalization petition in the country.
Talk to me about $3 million is what your campaign has invested to make Amendment 3 happen, get on the ballot. If this doesn't pass tonight, and we're not trying to jinx it, but if it doesn't happen tonight, realistically, what is next? Because I'm being told it could be another 4 to 8 years before there's a chance at legal recreational adult use in Missouri.
Oh yeah, I mean, first of all, you have to think about that really the only opportunity for this to happen is every 2 years, either during the midterms or during the presidential elections. So there's not a great chance, in my opinion, that the Missouri legislature is going to pass a broad, comprehensive adult use marijuana legalization initiative or measure in the country. So it is really up to the people to put something before our citizens that checks everybody's boxes, that appeals to the voters, that creates automatic expungement, that allows for home cultivation.
Ryan, we appreciate your time. We are going to let you go. And of course, the reason why this Amendment 3 is on the ballot is because the supporters say that more legislators couldn't get the job done, so they're going to try and amend the Constitution. We're live here in Ballpark Village. We'll send it back to you in studio.
David, thank you. And our Melanie Johnson is in studio tracking some of the biggest races in Illinois tonight. Melanie?
Corey, Sam, we're already getting results in from the AP declaring the governor race for Illinois. Right now, AP has projected J.B. Pritzker to be the winner in that race. 60% of the vote so far, 36% reporting so far. He was running against Darren Bailey, the Republican, but the AP already projected him to be the winner tonight for his second term as Illinois governor. Over to the Illinois U.S. Senate race, AP projecting that race as well. Over 1 million votes for Tammy Duckworth with 61% of the vote against Kathy Salvi, the Republican, also a lawyer out of Chicago. 36% of that votes now to Amendment 1 over in Illinois for on-the-job representation. That's leading right now. 65% of that vote, over 500,000 votes. 21% of the vote so far, still early in that one, but we'll continue to stay on track of this race. Right now, Cora will have more on the race for District 13.
Well, let's stay in Illinois, Melanie, to the race for District 13. A lot of eyeballs, not only locally, but across the country on this race. That is between Republican Regan Deering and Democrat Nikki Budzinski. Shoshana Stahl is following this race for us tonight. Shoshana, what can you tell us?
Yeah, we're here at Democrat Nikki Budzinski's watch party, and the crowd is continuing to grow with her supporters. It's still pretty early. I know Melanie was just telling you about some of the Illinois races here. This one is still pretty early, but 162 of those precincts are reporting 55% for Nikki Budzinski, 45% for Regan Deering. So it's still pretty early, but right now the crowd is pretty optimistic. They're pretty cheery. We have not yet heard from Nikki Budzinski, but we're expecting to hear from her within the hour as more of these numbers start to roll in. Some of the things she stands for is the working people, is what she say. Affordable childcare, affordable college, and working on fixing the economy, getting more money into the pockets of the people here in Illinois, especially District 13. A lot of eyes are on this race specifically because District 13 is part of Illinois' new congressional map that was made. That includes parts of the Metro East, like East St. Louis and Edwardsville, where we were earlier, all the way up here to Springfield and Decatur, where Regan Deering's watch party is being held right now. But right now, we're still continuing to track this as some of those early numbers are trickling in, like you mentioned before. But for now, we're live in Springfield. Shoshana Stahl, News 4.
Shoshana, thank you. Let's jump back here to Missouri. Take a closer look at the Missouri U.S. Senate seat. As we said, there's a lot of votes to count. And
yes,
about moments ago, Trudy Busch Valentine had about a 16-point lead in this race. Very early again, but now with 5% of the precincts reporting, you can see how close and tight, more tight that this has gotten. 50% of the vote to 48% of the vote for Eric Schmidt. So still a long night ahead to determine who wins this race.
Yeah, as this race tightens up, let's get a look at their campaign watch parties tonight. We have team coverage at both of those watch parties in that race. We want to start with our Alexis Odos, who's been at Schmidt's campaign watch party in West St. Louis County tonight. Alexis.
Sam, Corey, I can tell you in the last 20 minutes or so, this room just filled up here in Maryland Heights at the Westport Plaza Sheraton. The energy in this room has definitely risen as well. You know, you're talking about those results, but as we keep mentioning, these are very early results. Way more votes to be counted tonight, and Attorney General Eric Schmidt's campaign tells me they are feeling very good about tonight. They think that Eric Schmidt is going to stand up on that stage tonight. You can see the podium. It says, "Win for Missouri, win for America." That's the campaign slogan that they have been running on, and the supporters that have filled this room tonight, they believe that Attorney General Eric Schmidt is going to take it to Washington to be the next U.S. Senator for Missouri. They say that he has what it takes to make changes when it comes to inflation, to impact things like crime. There's a lot of parents here who have been supporting Eric Schmidt because of the lawsuits he filed as Attorney General that had to do with masking and vaccines, and that's what a lot of these supporters would like to see happen in Washington tonight. We're keeping an eye on who's here. We'll, of course, bring you any updates, any other Republicans that we see, and for now, we'll send it back to you guys.
Alexis Odos, thank you. Let's send things over to our Jenna Ray at Trudy Busch Valentine's campaign watch party for us tonight. Jenna?
My good friend, Bob. Hi, Corey. Things are definitely picking up here in South St. Louis as well. Attorney Bush Valentine supporters now making their way, some of their campaign staff to the stage, talking right now about their campaign in the last several months that they've endured on the campaign trail. We know that Attorney Bush Valentine has been to nearly every corner in the state of Missouri, and she says that was been the most gratifying moments of her campaign, talking with different people in every single pocket of the state. Today, Bush Valentine voted in Ladue earlier this morning, and we did talk to her actually this afternoon in North County, and she said her team and her staff are extremely optimistic. Despite polls showing Eric Schmidt was pulling out ahead, it's a very close race, as we just told you, and the Bush Valentine team is staying rather positive. There's about 150 or more people here in this room in South St. Louis right now. We know more people are planning to come in, and we're going to have speeches throughout the night. We'll continue to update you guys as we learn more. Sam and Corey.
Okay, Jenna, thank you. Let's get into some of these more micro local election races that we're talking about tonight. Let's get into the St. Louis County executive race.
So here's a look at those latest results right now. Sam Page, 55% of the votes. Mark Montevani, 42%. We're getting more precincts reporting now at 18%, as you can see at the top right hand of your screen. But a long way to go still in that one. And we're going to look at another St. Louis County race. This one is the race for St. Louis County Prosecutor Wesley Bell against Theo Brown Sr. And really no surprise here, Wesley Bell expected to win this race, is the incumbent, 75% of the vote, 25% of the vote for Brown Sr.
And this is where the race for St. Louis County Assessor sits. Jake Zimmerman leading with 62% of the vote. He is the incumbent in this race, 35% going to Peter Pfeiffer, 18% reporting there as well.
And in the city of St. Louis, this is a look at the race for St. Louis Board of Aldermen President. This one has been talked about throughout the city, and between Megan Green and Jack Coder. 56% of the vote for Green right now, 44% for Coder. But again, look at your top right-hand side of your screen there, just zero, not even 1% of the precincts reporting at this point. And you saw this on Missouri's ballot, the vote for the Missouri Constitution, should it be changed? Well, right now, 69% say no, yes, 31%, with 3% of the precincts reporting.
Okay, a lot of results for us to continue to work through tonight as the numbers continue to come in. We'll report them, of course, to you. We will be right back with more election night coverage.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
All you have to do is rise.
We'll help you shine.
Blueberry muffin? Thank you. News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us. We're watching out for you every morning.
He's guilty as hell.
Speeding in a Maserati on Gravois.
You killed someone. You killed someone. He's gone.
5 years later, the driver still not held accountable.
Our system's just corrupt.
News 4 investigates why this family's still fighting for justice.
Oh, he hasn't spent a second behind bars.
Thursday at 10 on News 4.
Something needs to be done.
Welcome back. A lot of numbers to sort through for you tonight, and to give us a better idea of what all of this means, we have gathered a panel of former politicians and local political experts.
And Chief Political Reporter Lauren Traeger joins us live in our other studio with this political panel right now. Lauren?
Yeah, guys, I am not one of those experts, so that's why we brought in the experts to talk to you, give you all that context and analysis to these races that we've been watching. I promise I'm going to introduce you guys in opposite order next time, but I think for the purposes of keeping things nice and clean here, we'll introduce you this way, left to right. Former Governor Jay Nixon, thank you so much for being here with us. Former City Alderman Antonio French. Former State GOP head Gene Evans. Former State Rep, too. I always got to get you that title. And Congressman Rodney Davis from Illinois. Thank you guys again so much for all of this conversation we've had. Again, it's so early. We don't have a lot of the numbers yet, but I want to turn to the U.S. Senate race here in Missouri. It's looking like the AG, Eric Schmidt, is going to go to Congress and the Senate for us. What does that say about Missouri? Is there a path forward ever again for Democrats? I'll turn to you guys to take a statewide race.
Well, I mean, first of all, you said as you introduced us left to right. The way I look at it, I'm on the right here. Not the left, it's my right. And I think that's one of the
stage right.
Well, but
stage
that is one of the keys for
yes.
the Democrats. You got to run from the middle.
Yeah.
This isn't how many cookies of various types you can stack up for your dessert. This is about campaigns to win that focus on the center and focus on what people are really thinking about and connect directly with them and then share their values. I think that Missouri is a state in which people will believe you if they know, if you understand what they are thinking about and you're respectful of their position. And I think that in recent years, it appears to be, you can say left or right, but we've been pushed in these fringe areas that make it difficult for the heartland to vote like the heartland on the Democratic side.
And I want to pose this question to everybody, but was Trudy Bush Valentine able to get to that message, to get enough of the middle people, or was she not speaking to them? Anybody can jump in here.
The numbers will tell. So this is like they say, if you're going to be a predictor, then if you're going to look in a crystal ball, you got to be able to eat glass. So here we go.
Well, I think it's a wave year too. So I think it would have been tough even for the best Democrat candidate to win a Senate race, a statewide race in Missouri this year. I think it takes somebody like a former governor who has some rural background and people know to be more of a centrist and who could raise money without having to appeal to the far left fringes out on the coast. Now, she had the ability to raise her own money, right, and put her own money in, which was an advantage she had, so she didn't have to take such extreme views if she didn't want to. But she also seemed very out of touch with the average voter, and that's been a problem for the Democrats in general. They seem very out of touch with just everyday values. And so when we're talking about inflation and the cost of gas, and your candidate is someone who's a well-known heiress and millionaire, I think it's hard for voters to say, yeah, she gets it. But in her defense, I think she ran a pretty good campaign, and I really don't think this year and this cycle that a Democrat could win a statewide race. I just don't.
It was a very tough task. She is not a well-known candidate. She had not run previously. Eric Schmidt has run several races statewide. He's a known commodity. He has followed his party further to the right. His positions are definitely more Trumpist than the old Eric Schmidt used to be. And he didn't get a big challenge, I think, from this newcomer, who frankly is not only had a tough time introducing herself statewide, but even getting her own base, Democratic base, to support her. The base in the urban areas in Missouri are really going further to the left. And a statewide Democrat has to be more centrist to even be successful. That's a very tough rope to walk in this kind of a day and age.
Lauren, you asked if a Democrat could win statewide Missouri again. They can't. Because the problem that you're mentioning about Democrats in Missouri moving to the polar left of the political spectrum is not just a Democratic problem. We see that in our party too. And there's going to come a time where Republicans in Missouri will nominate a candidate who's not going to be acceptable to those independent voters. But Eric Schmidt, we knew when we sat here at this table back in the primary, I think I said Eric Schmidt's going to cruise to victory. He's doing that tonight. But now he's got an issue he's got to deal with. I brought up a concern the last time we were here about, how he said he was not going to vote for Mitch McConnell to be the leader of the Senate. I thought that was a terrible strategic error on his part. Now he's going to win, and the pressure coming from that far right in our base against Mitch McConnell, that's led by former President Trump, is going to come down on Eric Schmidt after he wins tonight.
And Senior Senator Josh Hawley has now said the same. Is that going to be an issue? And what do you think everyday people think about that? Do they really, is that something they key in on?
I don't think they think about it at all. I mean, I think that's an inside baseball type of deal. And then, your hardcore base people who at the end of the day are going to vote again for Schmidt if he runs. But coming back to could a Democrat win statewide? Had we had a different result in our primary, which we talked about that evening, had Greitens, say, for example, won, it would have been an easier task, so to speak, for that, and had that third party candidate stayed in, which I think was kind of the plan all along. If Greitens were nominated, he were the nominee. We had a third party candidate, and then you had a good someone who could self-fund come in on the D side. There was a path. I'm not saying she would have won, but Eric Schmidt is a very strong candidate. I don't think he's moved farther to the right. I just think Democrats have moved farther to the left. He's going to be a great senator, and he did such a great job in the primary that even though he was outspent 4-1 in the general, he's still going to cruise to victory.
Especially for people in Missouri and Illinois, was this still an election about President Biden? Is this a referendum on how he's doing?
It always is in a midterm, you know. And I think we're still having change elections because, as you said, people are very angry. People were angry in 2020. They were angry in 2018. They've been angry as long as I've been involved in politics. So as a politician, you really have to be out there working with your constituents, because it's okay if they're mad at everybody else as long as they keep voting for you. But we are seeing people vote against the party in power, and we're seeing that all over the country. But that doesn't mean it's going to prove true the whole time. A lot of times there's a lot to overcome there. And a lot of these Democrat districts are not, 60-40, they're 80-20, or they're 90-10. And so you have to have a whole lot of dissatisfaction in order for a Republican to overcome that in some of these urban areas like in New York or San Francisco.
I also think that international issues are going to come to the fore a little bit more. The fact that Russia, when I was a kid, Russia was the bear. And now they're attacking Ukraine and taking their guns and shooting at innocent people in public every day. If we don't stop these people, and we don't stop them now, this will continue. The Republican Party has a serious problem with that issue, potentially. I'm not being critical here, but if ever there was a time in which democracy for the world and freedom for the world should be shown, it should be in our support for Ukraine now. And I feel a squishiness on the Republican side. You talk about things coming back and forth. That is one of the issues that could come back and bite.
We go back, going way back 10 years ago to the debates between, Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. And when Romney brought up Russia, Barack Obama said, take your foreign policy back to the 80s where it came from. I mean, they've been a problem for a long time, and I think Democrats have ignored it. And so I think it takes some serious leadership in Washington.
I think saying that President Biden has ignored Ukraine I can't stand here and say that Democrats ignored it.
That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that the threat of Russia and China has not been taken seriously enough by leaders in general on both sides. But I did want to point out that Romney brought this up 10 years ago and people basically laughed at him.
President Obama didn't take Russia seriously at the time. And unfortunately, we're seeing the consequences of that. You look back even a few decades where you see the president of one party begin an armed conflict, let's say Iraq, Afghanistan. And unfortunately, the far left side of the Democratic Party immediately tried to make that a political issue. And it became a political issue that was used to take over the majority in 2006 in that midterm second term Bush presidency. I agree with you, Governor. Foreign policy is where we ought to rally around each other. Right. I think
as a country,
we should always stand up against dictators like Vladimir Putin and protect duly elected leaders like Zelensky in Ukraine. I voted to send more arms to Ukraine. But you're right. We do have a concern on our side, but I don't think it's anything new. I think it's unfortunate both ends of the political parties have decided to make even war and battles become about politics and who wins.
Well, I think this is the area we're really going to disagree on. I think, U.S. passiveness regarding Russia reached a new level under the Trump administration, and especially with Russian interference in Trump's first election. The Republican Party outsourced much of its political activity to Russia.
That's totally debunked.
And then throughout the course of that administration, even when we tried to hold them accountable, the Trump administration was buddy-buddy with Vladimir Putin throughout. So I think we've reached a new level when it comes to Russia under the Trump administration.
I think we have people in a democracy that are being shot at in their apartments right now. I think we have a dictator attempting to redo the map of Europe, and much smaller steps happened before World War I. And we're in a situation now as a country with the coalition we're leading, thanks to folks like you that have been working hard to make sure that coalition stays together. I think it's just one of those times in which we as Americans need to once again talk about what our role is as a leading democracy of the world and use that to get that to a positive end, so we can move towards, instead of spending money shooting each other, we can begin to move forward as a country and a world, because we got big problems in the world too.
And that is why people are making their voices heard today about a lot of those big problems. Guys, thank you very much. Of course, our coverage will continue throughout the evening, and will continue right after this.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
A News 4 update on this election night in the race for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat.
Let's get a look at the numbers and where we stand right now. Eric Schmidt taking the lead in this race, as expected, with 56% of the vote now. 42% going to Trudy Bush Valentine, the Democrats in this race. 14% now reporting. On to the race for St. Louis County Executive. Here's a look at those standings.
Sam Page maintaining his lead right now with 55% of the vote. Mark Montevani with 42% of the vote. And you can see there 18% of the precincts reporting. Russell Kinsall is live now at Dr. Sam Page's watch party. Russell?
Yeah, this is a very upbeat crowd here tonight. Sam Page still feeling very confident he's going to win. Now, we were watching during that 2 week of no contest absentee voting. Large turnout in areas of the county with concentrations of Republican voters, less turnout in areas with concentrations of Democratic voters. But when those numbers were counted tonight, it showed Sam Page with a strong lead. He thinks he'll be able to hang on to that lead and win tonight. We'll see how those numbers finally finish, but very confident here at the Sam Page watch party in Bridgeton. Live back to you.
Thank you. Susan Okori is following the Mark Montevani campaign. She is live in Brentwood. Susan?
Yeah, a lot of people here right now just watching the polls, calling this a waiting game. They're stressing that the results that are in are early, and they're hoping to see things change as we start to see more ballots coming in, more votes there being counted. Mark Montevani has been here tonight. We've seen him going throughout the room, just talking to different supporters. One of the things that he kept bringing up is just that he didn't have as much time in this election, but he does feel like he was able to get his message out there, and he's hoping that's something that'll really resonate with voters, and again, hoping that he'll start to see a change. We're going to keep following, though, what happens here. Back to you guys.
Hey, Susan, as we have you live here, are there any particular areas that Mark Montevani is watching in St. Louis County where he thinks he can pick up some votes? I don't know if we can get Susan back there.
Well, one of the things he said is that some of the results that are coming in are more from North County, and he said that's an area where he believes Dr. Sam Page has a strong hold. So he's now looking throughout the rest of the county and saying as this night goes on, he's hoping to see this gap starting to close, and again, hoping that he'll be here giving the victory speech tonight.
Susan Okori with that live report. Thank you. What we can tell you on the Illinois side of the river, J.B. Pritzker, this is early on, right after the polls closed at 7 o'clock, projected the winner as the gubernatorial race over there in Illinois.
Yeah, and Tammy Duckworth also on the U.S. Senate side there in Illinois, projected early as the winner in that race. We have a lot of numbers that we're still trying to get to come in. We've got our Caroline Hecker, who is at the St. Louis County Board of Elections, who is there as they're tabulating all of these numbers. As she's mentioned, it is quite the ordeal. They have to get all of those numbers brought in from every single precinct to the Board of Elections to get those counted. So it's just a process. We'll get there.
And the numbers are coming in, and a lot of the races are tightening, so stay right here.
All right, and you can join us for a special online edition of News 4 right now. We're on OTT on our app, on KMOV.com, and on our Facebook. And then, of course, we will be back here on air with you coming up tonight on News 4 at 10 for a full Campaign 2022 wrap. We'll see you then.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
Inflation got you down, we're here to help. Free coffee, free gas, free groceries, free utilities, and a free fun night out. This November's free for you. For your chance to win, go to KMOV.com/contest for more information. Good morning, St. Louis.
News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us
We're watching out for you
every morning.
You deserve to be first. First to know when you're going to need a little extra protection, or something to keep you dry, or extra time in the morning, or when you need to run for these. Hey, if weather's going to mess up your day,
watch News 4 and you'll be first with First Alert Weather.
First for you.
All day, every day.
First Alert Weather.
Steve Templeton and the First Alert Weather Team.
yeah, we're watching out for you.
I will work for the people of Missouri. I will keep our democracy strong.
Not just from Missouri, but for Missouri, everybody.
We'll continue working on the things that we do well in local government.
The county government generally has been dysfunctional.
19 states have legalized marijuana. Now it's our turn, Missouri.
This amendment does not equal decriminalization.
We're operating at 30 jobs now. We'll double that to 60 if Amendment 3 passes.
Your children's future will always be my top priority.
It's never been more important for people to vote right now.
And welcome back to this special midterm election edition of News 4.
Our team coverage continues across the bi-state tonight. We want to get right over to our Paige Hulsey, who's here in studio with us with some exclusive numbers for us tonight. Paige.
That's right. When I last talked to you, we had Trudy Bush Valentine winning the race for the U.S. Senate seat. We are seeing a lot more votes now come in on that race, and the tide has really turned in favor of Eric Schmidt, which is kind of what we expected due to the polling that we were seeing going into the race. So let me show you where things stand right now. We have about 20% of the vote counted in Missouri for the race for the U.S. Senate seat. Eric Schmidt with 57% of the vote right now. You're seeing a lot more of these rural counties votes coming in there. We do still have Trudy Bush Valentine winning in the city of St. Louis County, also in the Kansas City area, Jackson County, which we expected. What we don't have yet is any vote information from Boone County. That's critical because if we jump back to the 2020 election, the presidential election, we needed that county for Joe Biden. He still lost the state of Missouri, though, even with that help. So Trudy Bush Valentine would have to pick up Boone County as well as get a much bigger lead in the city of St. Louis County as well. So again, uphill battle for her, tide really turning in the favor of Eric Schmidt. And speaking of Eric Schmidt, this is what I wanted to show you earlier when we were having those technical problems. We expected this because our exclusive polling heading into the vote tonight showed us that the majority of Missourians thought that the economy is not doing well, and that's because of President Biden. Of those Missourians who felt that way, an overwhelming majority of them were planning to vote for Eric Schmidt. So learning a lot more about where things stand after we previously learned why voters were feeling the way that they were. We'll keep tabs on these results and bring you updates throughout the night.
All right, Paige, a good breakdown for us. Thank you. Here's another look right now at the results for Amendment 3 in Missouri. 51% to 49% at this point. So that has really tightened over the last 10 minutes or so. This is the amendment that, if passed, this would legalize marijuana in the state of Missouri. David Amilati joins us live at Ballpark Village, where supporters of that amendment have gathered. David, we just showed the numbers. That definitely tightening with more no votes over in the last 5 minutes. What's the mood there?
Corey, you can really feel it in the room right now. It's really impressive how the room kind of shifts from all the TVs, trying to just see what the very latest is being said about where this race is. Very close. What I want to do right now is talk about maybe who's out to benefit the most if Amendment 3 passes. And I'm joined here with Melanie Randles. She is a social justice advocate in the greater St. Louis community. I was talking with some dispensary owners just a few minutes ago. They're telling me 4% of everyone in the marijuana game is either a person of color or a woman. Those are the people that we're trying to help if we pass Amendment 3. How is there going to be a benefit to helping those communities thrive?
Absolutely. So I feel that there are new social equity benchmarks that have been entered into Amendment 3. There's 5 of them. One of them coming from an unaccredited high school, having a net worth of less than $250,000, having been criminalized for cannabis in the past, being a disabled veteran. All of those social equity benchmarks allow folks who would not have been able to enter the industry in the past to now have an equitable chance at having a shot.
And really quick, I want to talk about, is there going to be an education piece for the general public if Amendment 3 passes? Because a lot of people still view it as a stigma of people just wanting to smoke marijuana whenever they want, and certainly we know that's not the case if Amendment 3 passes.
Gotcha, yes. So there's so many avenues for education here. We have the Department of Health and Senior Services. We have the Chief Equity Officer who will be appointed as a member of the community to provide programs and services and resources. Then you have folks like myself who have a cannabis resource center called the Canna Education Collective, where we educate folks as well. There's so many different avenues in this industry that folks can enter, from textile, everything really.
Melanie, thank you so much for your time. We're going to continue to monitor this very close race here from Ballpark Village. We're going to send it back to you guys in studio.
Just a few thousand votes separating that at this point tonight, David. Thank you. Now we want to get back to Illinois and our Melanie Johnson, who's tracking some of the biggest races for us there. She's live in studio. Hey, Melanie.
Sam and Corey, moments after the polls closed, the Illinois governor race was called. Governor J.B. Pritzker declared the winner in that race with over 58% of the vote. Over 1 million votes cast, 65% of that reporting he was going against Republican Darren Bailey. And moments ago, he addressed voters and his supporters at the podium, thanking them for coming out and also saying history was made tonight.
I'm grateful tonight that Illinois continues a long tradition of peaceful and fair elections. And I am so thrilled to spend 4 more years as your governor.
Illinois U.S. Senate race, Tammy Duckworth getting the same fate as J.B. Pritzker. The AP already declaring she's the winner in that race for the Illinois U.S. Senate with 66% of that reporting. Now to the Illinois Amendment 1 that would push for labor movements in the state of Illinois and amend the state constitution. 65% of those results saying that 65% of voters saying that they are in favor of that, with 36% reporting as of right now. We'll continue to stay on top of these races, but now off to the District 13 race in Illinois.
Yeah, Melanie, let's take a look at that. This is District 13 in Illinois. That is between Republican Regan Deering and Democrat Nikki Budzinski. A lot of experts calling this a close race going into tonight, but right now, Budzinski with a pretty good lead here, 56% of the vote for her, 44% for Regan Deering, 39% of the precincts reporting in that one. Shoshana Stahl is following that race. She is live now in Springfield. Shoshana?
Yeah, I'm here at Nikki Budzinski's watch party, and like you just mentioned, some of those results are starting to pour in. I'm joined right now by one of the supporters, David Palmer. David, we've been watching the race as it trickles in on the screen right now. You were getting pretty excited before as you watched some of those results come in. Tell me what's been going on in your minds and the minds of the supporters here.
Yeah, we're just happy that, we've been doing a lot of hard work during this whole campaign cycle. Obviously, I was Nikki's primary opponent, so I've been involved in this for a very long time, but she's a wonderful candidate. She's run a really strong and amazing campaign. She's really focused on working families, and it's paying off today.
So obviously at one point you were her competitor, now you're a supporter. Talk to me and some of the constituents here that are going to be watching that are voters in Illinois about what Nikki will bring to the newly mapped District 13.
Yeah, I'm really excited about how she's going to really support working families. I think she'll be amazing at constituency service, really making sure that people get their needs met in this district, something that we haven't had in a long time. And just her background with really making sure that the working families of Illinois are put first and on a pedestal. And she's really good at that. And I'm excited to see what she does going forward.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. We're going to continue watching the results like you are just on the screen behind us, and we'll keep providing you with those updates as results keep pouring in from those different precincts. But for now, live in Springfield, Shoshana Stahl, News 4.
Shoshana, thank you. Let's go back to the race for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat. And as expected, as more precincts reported, more votes have come in, you can see Eric Schmidt taking a commanding lead in this race with 18% of the precincts reporting. 58% of the vote for Eric Schmidt, 40% for Trudy Bush Valentine. We'll keep tabs on that as we do have team coverage on this race.
Yeah, we have crews at both candidates' campaigns tonight. We want to start with our Alexis Odos, who's at the Schmidt campaign watch party at Westport Plaza tonight at the Sheraton there. Alexis, how is it?
Well, I can tell you that it's a very upbeat attitude here throughout this party. The crowd has really filled in here at the Westport Sheraton. I'm going to let Adam kind of zoom into the crowd and let you take a look. Now, of course, a lot of people are keeping their eyes on the screen. There you go. Well, they're giving big cheers right now because that was the numbers for Eric Schmidt and Trudy Busch Valentine up on Fox News there. Of course, as you mentioned, Eric Schmidt has taken a very large lead in this race. That's what the campaign expected. That's what the crowd here expects. And they are just waiting for the Attorney General to take that podium tonight and give an acceptance speech. Of course, we're still watching those numbers, and we'll bring you the latest as soon as something happens here in Maryland Heights. We'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, Alexis, thank you. On the other side of this race in South City is our Jenna Ray at the Trudy Busch Valentine Watch Party. Jenna.
Samantha, things are picking up here. As you can see, we've got dozens of Trudy Busch Valentine supporters standing behind me. They're listening to several speakers. We have former state representatives here, current state representatives here, local lawmakers, as well as other lawmakers from across the state. Now, the energy has really been gaining despite Eric Schmidt, Trudy Busch Valentine's opponent, leading now in the polls. I just talked with Trudy Busch Valentine's team, as well as some of her friends and supporters who are here right now. They are still remaining optimistic as a large majority of those polls still have to come in. But for now, the optimism is high from supporters and from Trudy Busch Valentine's team, and we'll continue monitoring this as the results come in. Sam and Corey.
Jenna, thank you. Another hot race in the Metro tonight is for St. Louis County Executive. That's between Democrat and incumbent Dr. Sam Page, who is seeking a second term, and Republican candidate Mark Montevani. Looking at those numbers there right now, Sam Page leading with 52% of the vote. Russell is at Dr. Sam Page's watch party. How is it there tonight, Russell?
It's a very upbeat crowd here. Sam Page is working his way through the crowd, talking to supporters. He's just right here over my shoulder. He has been upbeat since he first got here and said he was confident that he was going to win. He wouldn't predict how the numbers would shake out, but did say he was going to win. Earlier this evening, I talked with Vicki Lorenz England. She is a former state representative running for Tim Fitch's spot. He resigned and did not run for re-election. His term ran out. He didn't run for re-election. She said if she could win, that would change the dynamics of the county council, provide more support for Dr. Page to get more things done. But he is telling us that he's got a good track record. His opponent said that the county government is in chaos, but he says it is not. They've accomplished a lot. Crime is lower. They've seen a creation of more jobs. He's been able to tackle issues like addiction and mental health, put more money into those. Just announced yesterday some more money for police. Quite a bit more money for police. So he said he's accomplished a lot, and he's confident that he will win tonight. So we'll see what the numbers are later on. Back to you.
All right, Russell, thank you. Our Susan L. Corey is at the Montevani campaign. Susan, as the numbers have come in throughout the night, Montevani has been able to tighten the race a little bit. Is he optimistic that he's be able to get over that hump?
That's the message we're hearing from everyone here right now. They're just clinging on to that hope that we're going to see things continue to tighten as more results come in. Montevani saying that he thinks he's going to be performing better in South and West counties, and right now we're seeing more results from the North, where his camp believes that Dr. Sam Page has more of a stronghold. One of the things that we've heard Montevani say throughout this campaign is just that he hasn't had as much time. He only had about 2 weeks in the race, or 2 months, I should say, in the race after he came in and took the spot where Catherine Pinner had dropped out. And he believes, though, that one of the big things is that he's been able to get his message out there, that he wants to focus on policing and putting money towards safety. And he also says that he thinks it's time for a change in county government, and that's something else he's hoping will give him an edge over Dr. Sam Page, hoping that voters will feel that same way. And again, Mark Montevani, though, saying that he's feeling good tonight, he's optimistic, he's closely watching those results and hoping that as we see more results coming in, that we'll start to see this tightening and swing towards him. Again, back to you.
All right, Susan, thank you. I want to update with 116 precincts reporting right now in that St. Louis County executive race. Mark Montevani sitting with 45% of the vote, just 16,000 fewer right now than Sam Page. We are also, though, tracking big elections for U.S. House seats in Missouri and Illinois. For that, we go back to our Melanie Johnson here in studio watching over those races. Melanie.
Both Democrats and Republicans hoping to win the majority of these House seats. Let's go to District 1, where Cori Bush has already said on Twitter that she's declared the winner in this race. The Democrat is looking for her second term in office. She's running against Andrew Jones, the Republican. 3% reporting so far, 70% of the vote so far for Democrat Cori Bush. Over to Missouri House District 3, Blaine Luetkemeyer, the incumbent Republican, taking that seat back in 2013, 66% of that vote there. He is leading his opponent, Democrat Bethany Mann, who is a newcomer to the political seat. Also in the Illinois U.S. House District 12 race, with 34% of the vote so far, Mike Boss for 75% there over Democrat Homer Markle. And of course, we will continue to monitor a projected winner as the U.S. Senate rate for Missouri has just been projected. Sam and Corey.
Yeah, I want to get to that breaking news that we were getting into our newsroom. AP projecting Eric Schmidt, the winner of the U.S. Senate seat. And we're going to have more on those numbers coming up here.
A lot for us to still track, still ahead in this special midterm election edition of News 4. We have our powerhouse political experts in studio. We'll have their analysis of the latest results when we come back.
Elections are right around the corner, and so is an opportunity to make your voice heard. And with recent changes to many election laws, it's more important than ever to know how, when, and where to vote. That's why AARP has your back with up-to-date information on how to register, the rules for early voting, and key deadlines. Your vote is your say in what tomorrow looks like for yourself, your loved ones, and your community. Get the latest information about voting. Visit aarp.org/movotes.
All you have to do is rise.
We'll help you shine.
Blueberry muffin? Thank you. News 4 this morning.
Wake up with us. We're watching out for you every morning. He's guilty as hell.
Speeding in a Maserati on Gravois.
You killed someone. You killed someone. He's gone.
5 years later, the driver still not held accountable.
Our system's just corrupt.
News 4 investigates why this family's still fighting for justice.
Well, he hasn't spent a second behind bars.
Thursday at 10 on News 4.
Something needs to be done.
We do have some breaking news that we are following right now. The AP declaring Eric Schmidt the winner of Missouri's U.S. Senate seat. As we take a look at those numbers, 55% of the vote, 42% for Trudy Bush Valentine. But again, the AP projecting Eric Schmidt, as expected, the winner of that Missouri U.S. Senate seat.
Yeah, that's the third race that AP has called at this point tonight. Governor Pritzker out of Illinois also winning his race as expected. Tammy Duckworth the same in her race. In our studio tonight, we have a lot of numbers still to go through as ballots are coming in. And to help us understand what all of this means, give us some insight, we want to get to Chief Political Reporter Lauren Traeger, who has a political panel in studio tonight. Lauren.
That's right, guys. We have been talking to them, but I want to ask, of course, about this breaking news. Not a huge surprise that Eric Schmidt is going to be the next senator from Missouri. But are you looking at the margin? Does it say anything to you so far? Did you expect a bigger spread? Jean, why don't you jump in here?
Well, we don't know what it's going to be, but I expected double digits. I'm so happy. I mean, Eric Schmidt's a friend of mine. I think he's one of the best people I've ever met in politics, honestly. I like to tell the story that if you run into him, he'd much rather tell you about his kids and their sports activities than his latest political endeavor. So I'm thrilled. I think he's going to represent the state well and just do a great job. So I couldn't be happier for Eric Schmidt and for the state.
A disappointment for the Democrats, no doubt, hoping to get a little bit closer. And there's been some criticism criticism of the AG of using his office, say, to campaign, to going farther right than he even used to be. How is he going to now represent all Missourians?
Well, clearly he'll be the best United States senator Missouri has immediately, even though he's not the senior senator. And that will be a big advantage for him. As he steps in, he'll start not as a guy who's trying to just tease himself and smile and look good and cause problems the way
You're speaking of someone not in the room at the moment, I see. Yes.
And I think that Eric will step into that sort of role and be somebody that moves around the state comfortably, talks to people comfortably. I served with Eric, both when he was in the state. I knew him in the state Senate, and obviously as Attorney General. And I think about the work we did on autism. And some people say, well, he has a son that has some challenges, so maybe that's why he's with it. I found him to be 100% sincere at all times.
Absolutely.
And helpful in ways that were important. I disagree with some of the things he's done, obviously, but he's our senator, and I look forward to working with him.
And he's a guy who took the lead after Ferguson to do some real reforms because he saw some flaws that were causing problems in communities where people were disadvantaged, poor, or communities of color. And he passed some significant legislation that was definitely bipartisan. This was not something you would see other Republicans necessarily championing, but he pushed that through. I know you were governor at the time. Those were significant. Now, some of those things were shot down by the courts, but this is a guy who saw a problem with the divisive nature of our community and wanted to try to solve it. And that's who he's a problem solver, and I think he's going to do a great job.
Yeah, his record in the past had been very much more moderate. I was on several radio shows with him, and we had great conversations. I do think that in recent years, he's kind of gone more with the Trump wing of the party, and some of that rhetoric has been disappointing to some of those that would want the senator to be a representative of the entire state, not just his party, not be so partisan. It's a long position. He's got many years he's going to be in this spot, so we hope that he makes efforts to make sure that he represents all Missourians, not just those that showed up to vote for him today.
One of the ads, of course, taking a blowtorch to the Biden administration policies. Is he going to be a problem for President Biden?
I think the Biden administration views any Republican getting elected to the Senate as a problem for President Biden, but Eric Schmidt is going to be a great member of the U.S. Senate. Just the human factor that you all laid out. I don't know Eric that well. I met him, ironically, one time at the St. Louis Blues White House celebration when the Blues won the Stanley Cup. I made sure the White House didn't forget they had Blues fans in Illinois, too. Yeah. But Eric is going to be somebody who I think can walk into the Senate and be that type of leader like Roy Blunt was for Missouri. But Eric's going to have to choose. I already criticized him for a decision he made that I think his advisors told him he had to make that I thought was a little bit short-sighted. But when you look ahead, now that you're victorious, you get to set your own destiny. And I think Eric Schmidt can set his own destiny. And I want to give, I've never met Trudy Bush Valentine, but she ran a very credible campaign. I did mention when we were off the air, if her election night party ends a little early, I'm a big fan of the Anheuser-Busch products. A little empty. You want to drop by the KMOV studios, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Eric Schmidt has a real choice to make, whether he can go through the campaign and treat that as a campaign, or whether he's going to continue, like far too many people do, to make each day in the United States Senate as if he's campaigning. If he goes back to basics and reflects the people of the Show Me State, then we could have a voice that would be heard once again in Washington, and that's his choice. He's had to do what he's had to do in the politics here. It's a unique time, and he ran it masterfully to get through the various challenges that existed out there. But now he's got that big personal choice.
And is that the legacy of Roy Blunt? Could he step into that role of being a bit more of that middle centrist person?
I don't want to diminish Roy Blunt by comparing him to somebody who has not even been sworn in yet. Roy has a long career in various positions, county clerk, secretary of state, Congress, president of a college, where he was able to move forward. Right. Eric is at the beginning of the next phase, and he'll have a chance, if he wants to be that kind of broader, bigger, stronger leader, and that's his task in front of him and a choice to make.
Yeah, he's got to decide if he wants to be a statesman or just another politician. But Missouri Democrats also have some decisions to make after tonight too. What are Democrats going to do to appeal to a broader electorate in the state? And how are they going to do a better job of selecting candidates that have longer records, have earned the trust of Missourians who people know, and so that when it comes to these statewide elections, they're in a better position.
Yeah, Democrats will likely not hold any statewide office, losing the auditor's race. What does this mean, though, for Senator Hawley's reelection, for the governor's race coming up? I mean, does this signal anything to any of you about upcoming races?
I've been through 3 deaths of the Democratic Party in Missouri. And I was on the ticket for a couple of them. 88 was not a good year. I remember when we were getting sworn in 92 with Carnahan and me, and we'd all swept it in 92. A major Republican turned to his friend next to him in front of us as we were getting sworn in and said, I told you it'd be a cold day in Hades whenever the Democrats got in, and it was a cold day when we swore in that day. And then we fell down and we came back up. So I think Missouri is a very centrist state. I think the people are incredibly rational. I love them so deeply and respect our people so deeply. I don't think they look at politics in nearly as partisan a way as both politicians and you are forced to do in your analyzation. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the coming years for a very vibrant Missouri, not only for Democrats, but also for young Republicans. I'm very optimistic about the future and wish the new senator the best.
And for now, he will be heading to the Senate. All right, guys, thank you very much. Again, appreciate you and all of your context that you've been providing us on this, and we will send it back to you for some more coverage.
From the KMOV studios, this is a Campaign 2022 update.
Really glad to have you with us on News 4 this election night. We are monitoring the race for Missouri's U.S. Senate seat. Here's a look at those results. At this point tonight, AP calling Eric Schmidt the winner for the Republican Party on the Missouri U.S. Senate with 57% of the vote. And here's a look at those results right now.
And our Alexis Sotos has been following the Eric Schmidt campaign. Alexis joining us live now. Alexis, if you can hear us, I'm sure there's a lot of excitement there. But what was it like when he was the projected winner when this race was called? What was it like?
Corey, huge cheers across the crowd here at the Sheraton Hotel in Westport Plaza in Maryland Heights. But of course, that was expected. There was never a doubt in the minds of this campaign, as well as the supporters here at this watch party for Eric Schmidt, that he would win this race. But of course, you never know what's going to happen until the voters come out and vote. And voters and supporters here say this is what Missouri was. This is what Missouri needs in Washington, D.C. Attorney General Eric Schmidt will be, according to those projections, the next senator here in Missouri. You can see the crowd behind me. We are told he is expected to speak any moment now. His family is starting to make the way down here. He was watching those results with his family upstairs here at the hotel. They've got a tradition on election night to eat pizza during that election. This is not his first time. Of course, he's been attorney general, state senator, state treasurer, and we are going to bring you that speech as soon as he takes the stage there. For now, we'll send it back to you guys.
Yeah, we'll be watching for that, Alexis. Thank you. Well, on the other side of things, our Jenna Ray is in South St. Louis at the campaign watch party for Trudy Bush Valentine. Now that Eric Schmidt is the projected winner, what is the mood like there?
Corey, morale definitely dipped down the minute that those AP results came in, declaring Republican candidate Eric Schmidt getting that U.S. Senate seat for Missouri. He's now headed to Washington, D.C. However, supporters here for Trudy Bush Valentine say it was a good run for the last several months. They say Trudy Bush Valentine has dedicated her time to the campaign trail. She's gone to nearly every single pocket in the state of Missouri, talking with people in different communities. I talked with Bush Valentine earlier this afternoon, and she says one of the things that she liked most about being on the campaign trail was talking with people, learning their hopes and dreams, wishes, and even their concerns, things that they wanted to see change. But for now, as we know, Schmidt will take that seat in Washington, D.C. We're told that we should hear from Trudy Bush Valentine here within the next hour. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Jenna, thank you. And in just about 30 minutes, we will be on air back here on Channel 4 for News 4 at 10.
Yeah, we're going to have the latest results as they roll in tonight. And also, we are going to have, as soon as Eric Schmidt steps to that podium, we'll be bringing that to you on the KMOV News apps, or watch for that. And then again, we will see it tonight at 10 o'clock.